Here. He just vanished.
I'll try to.
All right, we are live.
What's up?
With Zertis, with Jeremiah, and with Adam right now. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Do you hear that? There's like a crinkle in the background. I don't know. It's kind of scary ghost voice. Spooky. What's up, everybody?
Spooky action going on. Adam, we still there, or did they cut you out? Jeremiah, you're here?
You got me.
I see two Jeremiahs. There's like one above and also below. As above, so below. Oh, Jeremiah.
Esoteric principles at their finest right there.
Yeah, I mean, so we're trying this. I'm actually using a different system right now. So hopefully everything's coming through okay. What's up, Nicholas? Good to see you. Mic check. Check, check. Mic check. Yeah, we're trying to get the science show going. So this is the BurnEye. I'm calling it Real Science on the other side. I want to do a thing with that like theme song from the Weird Side. Real Science, you know, or something like that. That's kind of what I vibe.
I like that. I dig that.
And Jeremiah's here, and he should be doing some experiments. He's going to tell us about that. Adam is also with us.
Hello.
There we go. Yeah. What's up?
How you doing today, Adam?
My internet apparently doesn't work well. YouTube just identified me as 2 live streams going right on schedule that I am subscribed to, which is what I'm talking on now. So apparently it's all working.
All until you talk about something that you're not supposed to talk about, and then goodbye connection.
That was what it felt like, right?
I've got all those topics.
All the time. It's like completely clear, completely fine, and then, bring up a certain word, and
Ishcon, you can spell circus with an X. I think
that was honestly a pretty good simulation right there. But yeah, it's going to cut out like pretty much 90% of the words as soon as you get onto something that you really shouldn't be talking about,
or really should be talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I was kind of curious, though. I mean, you want to test the waters and see what happens if you try again. Because, you know, the idea that Big Pharma and their designs and the difficulty in designing new, smarter drugs, right? Like, that's something that's it's interesting. Give it a shot. Adam, could you hear me? Did they really just take him out? Literally.
We're talking about right before we went live?
See?
Or did they cut off Adam
they're
again?
They're like, no, literally, that's not okay. Talk about the gravitron.
Literally, it's. Oh wow.
Yeah. All right, that's interesting how that works. Okay, but the gravitron, seriously, folks. Jeremiah, while Adam's trying to get reconnected again, do you want to try to explain the thing you've been working on? Crossing my fingers here.
Jeremiah, the account you still have on is muted if you're trying to talk. It's just weird. It's like completely fine before we go live, then go live and hey, doesn't want to work anymore.
Yeah, suspicious.
Have we lost both Adam and Jeremiah?
Well, you can throw them the link again. They can jump back in. What's some of the stuff you've been looking at?
I'm supposedly still connected.
I'm still hanging around.
What the heck?
Okay.
See?
He's also here with his unnamed girlfriend. Hi.
Hi, unnamed girlfriend. Good to hear from you again.
Nice to hear from y'all. I was told this was going to be about weird science and paranormal, so I decided to drop by.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the goal. I guess that's the stuff that we're allowed to talk about. That's the
You
deal.
know, for Halloweeny, Samhain, whatever tickles your pink parts.
Exactly.
It is interesting too. I was thinking earlier, like how television exists is so interesting, and how we finally got to the point of what people wanted the most from things, basically, which is like, talking to the dead and looking at each other on TV, right? That's like everyone's dream since the beginning of TV, but even before TV, talking to the dead through radio devices, right?
I always wanted a
It's
dope, like old school Nazi seance table. You know,
The classic edition. What?
yeah,
What specifically
super
makes-
classic, pre Ouija board. You know, Hasbro.
What's it do? How's this work?
It's like I was just watching some weird horror series that demoed one of the like antique models, and it's like from 1940s or earlier, and it's just basically this huge wooden circle, and it has occult symbology in it, like a pentagram, hidden drawers possibly for, you know, old ancient knowledge type books. Very different from a Ouija board. A seance table is meant for multiple people to gather around it. So
Yeah, they better have the spell tone.
Yeah, go into the seance table thing, because like that's a really, let's talk about the technology behind.
they get very symbolic about it. They think that there is significance to which type of wood that they use for the inlays.
Really? Very Harry
Yeah,
Potter. What
like
can you
like
think of?
like sandalwood. I can't remember some of the other woods that were really important, but it looks like, you know, I know that spiritualism was kind of like a big scam thing from turn of like the 1800s into the early 1900s.
I don't know.
But
Before
think
they
of
had
like
TVs,
think of a high class, high quality, small version of the table people sit at. It's made out of a thick piece of circular wood, and they're using specific types of wood. And
circular. It's got to be circular.
yeah, they usually have I don't know if props is the right word, but they have like significant occult objects that they are using in conjunction with the seance table. And, you know, the hope is to summon and bind demons, or, you know, call up the spirits of ones that have passed on.
I just did it because, you know, you didn't have a TV. You had the parlor room, which becomes the living room when they were finally like, dude, stop putting dead people in the parlor room. Or, you know. But for a long time there, you got the seance table, and everybody, you know, rich people and poor, like, are all into this because they don't have ESPN. They have ESP. They're spending all day focusing on they're going to get to do their seances, you know, and seance TV. Like
I think it's a
the
different breed, you know, ESPN versus seance, you know?
You'd
Very
like to
different
think
breed.
that. I don't know. I mean, think about how.
Well, I
little
mean,
is
I don't,
there.
I can't
All right,
say
maybe
that I know the crossover of.
There's
you
probably
know,
better. There's probably better TV show examples. John Edwards,
Going to
Quantum
the
Leap.
upside down.
Yeah, I think the main point though is that they replaced these boards with TVs, right? And the guys who invented the TV, they were pretty into seances too, right? I mean, Jeremiah, what do you think? Got that one? You know what I'm talking about?
That's a really
I
good
don't know
point.
what he's talking about.
well, the old CRTs are fucking weird as shit.
Well, like
Yeah.
the old
Exactly.
electricity
Oh,
in
I'm
there.
sorry, my bad.
Just
Late
pointing it out there.
1800s.
Yeah, we are trying to keep it kind of, sort of.
It was easy to mess with CRTs. I don't know if you guys ever tried to poke your mind at CRTs.
I love
Those
cathode
were
ray
easy.
tubes. We
Those
talked
were
about,
easy to mess with. Yeah.
talked about the Ghostbuster weapon, and Adam was trying to say how important the photon cannon was, and I'm like, I don't know, man, but the vacuum. Because the vacuum is the thing. Because the vacuum is the CERN machine that can store souls, straight up Geist. You know, like that's that's pretty scary. So, but that's what a CRT is. A CRT is a machine that can store souls. It's a vacuum, and it's used to send radio beings.
Right? Like, Adam, are you able to talk a little bit more about the soul catching device? And hopefully Charlie shows up. I sent him the link. We were talking earlier today. He's supposed to be here.
Charlie, you're missing soul cannons.
So
no, there's no way that you don't want Adam.
Everybody's breaking up the soul catching thing. I've had several people tell me it's possible, and they won't share with me how to do it because they think I can actually do something with it. So these people with channeled information, they want to share their information, and they know apparently how to do soul catching, but I'm pretty sure I know how to escape the soul prison if you end up on one of these things. But still, like, it's technology nobody even cares about now, I don't think. Am I wrong about that?
I mean, Facebook clearly does. Facebook wants to control and own souls, right? Like the meta experience is to take timelines of people, and then eventually in 3 years, there's going to be a bunch of us waking up in these cylinders, being like, "Wait, I am Andreas. I am Bernie. Wait, no, I'm not. I am just the memory timeline of all of the different decisions that were marketed."
Meta wants your soul inside the metaverse. They want to steal the soul into the metaverse.
Isn't that in the white paper? I thought that was their whole, like, that's the marketing.
So, like, Facebook wants to do, like, a meta Second Life kind of simulation or some shit.
Way beyond
that.
Sounds like they've already won if that's what they're looking for. I mean, that's they've already done all of that.
The soul itself is still the thing, like something that can make decisions and it resonates. Like the idea of substrate independence, that's really where the next thing is. If you can take someone's mind and you can put it into the internet, then all of a sudden that person is an integrated chip for the entire singularity. And so you can
But that's the whole thing. You need their agreement to do that.
Okay, so I think he's like talking about making
human
a business
centipede
deal with demons versus selling your soul. Big difference.
Because if they're not,
this is like Chewbacca.
Man,
they decide like I'm going to go back 50 years in time.
You don't have to sell your soul. You can make a business pact, but they expect you to hold up your end of the deal.
Nobody wants me sharing my ideas. Can someone link me in with a phone call to this? Because if you can link me with an actual phone call, that works really well.
Fine. That's the craziest part. It's like as soon as you start explaining it, it just goes yeah, and then it's like you come back in perfect sentences, perfect paragraphs coming through. Be asking to be on the phone. It's crazy. Maybe if you're on Wi-Fi, if you're on a cell phone, if you can come in and turn off the Wi-Fi and just use your cellular data without the camera, just the microphone, maybe that might help. I don't know.
I have very limited cell phone data, so that's not likely to work. I have unlimited text and talk time, however, so I can show up with a phone call through the phone service.
Perfectly now. So we're going to shut up and explain everything right now, Adam. Don't move from where you are.
Red pill. Go.
Well, the phone's sitting on the table. It's not moving the entire time. My wireless signal bounces a quarter mile over hills with multiple repeaters to other people's houses.
We're just saying now's the time to release your dark secrets.
Yeah, tell us now. Well, there's still fidelity, all about the demons in the contract.
I mean, here's an idea for everyone, and I hope somebody understands this, is that I'm sure people have seen Bob Granger's bagel coil. Now, if you assume that along with Wilbert Smith's information, it pretty much unlocks all of reality because it means these bagel coil things make up all the quarks, and then that makes up all the atoms that make up our reality. They're all running at a specific frequency with a specific size. The real trick here is you can mess with that frequency and show up in like the near astral realm or whatever. All of that makes possible all of these different stacked realities. And I've never seen any physicist talk about it or spiritual person, but that's where the math leads me, of like how it's all created. And the weird thing is that though that's not the only possible pattern, like the hover coil or the double helix are completely different stable versions of electromagnetic reality that makes everything else, and they can be completely different. And when you stack all this stuff on top of itself, you realize the physicists messed up thinking that we had some sort of solid reality. Did any of this get through?
Yeah.
Or did
It all
Okay,
got
does that make-
perfectly through? So keep on going, brother. We hear you loud and clear.
I was gonna ask, does like that make sense? Because it makes all of the anomalies in reality completely go away. All of the spiritual stuff, all of the physics makes complete sense with that version of reality.
It's
I
not
love it.
dimensions.
So are
That's
you
the main
talking about
difference
how
is
like
dimensions
when
are
we're
not.
awake, all of like the telekinetic stuff, the the paranormal, it seems to move like molasses. It seems to require like a intense burst of energy to pop off versus when you're in other states.
I mean, that's all how this plays out in other. I've already told you all this. I know you. Does my
I
version
know
of
you
reality?
too.
Well,
Does
but
my
say-
version of what?
Alright,
Does my version of reality?
Here's my contention. The problem is femto technology will show you how you can arrange particles so that waves will travel through them in parallel to ways that they've traveled before. So you could easily femto print in a vacuum or in a different like lot of space, a place where like this reality, the way it exists now, it's been scanned, and then you can have a femto printer that prints a series of femto quarks, and then you have certain waves that cause the same ampage. We could reiterate the same moment, start over from this moment somewhere else, 3D printed the way it is, with people that have the same memories because they're stored in the stardust and whatever. But that's not dimensions. Dimensions is awareness. So you're talking about Pac-Man versus us versus
The
realms, Oh, Bruce, because now he knows exactly what I'm talking about. He's got some really great thing to say. They're going to shut him up about it. This is amazing.
About what I just said is that the field.
See, the field, I could already tell it was going to be juicy.
Adam, you still there?
Smash that like button and subscribe. Don't worry, we'll get Adam back, especially after this. Like, we're going to have to go to his house, set up a relay antenna switch, get him armed guards, and then he'll be able to tell us exactly what he's trying to say about reality.
He's pretty exclusive about letting people know where he lives, so, and it's hard to find him anyway.
Dude, come back with that reality rant. What do you think, though, Bernie? What do you think about reality? Thoughts on dimensions versus realms?
With the distance. Reality is whatever we make it. It's the power of projection, that law of attraction, and that the control mechanism, the parasites, the powers that be, whatever it is, they do not want the average human to make peace with the fact that they have a soul and that your soul is an infinite being in consciousness. They want everybody on this materialistic YOLO reality that then you're able to be controlled, and that also then you're not looking into these technologies and these realities of this multi-dimensional verse, as opposed to just plug into the television.
Dude, and so Jeremy Sherman says Andreas should have so first off, we're co-hosting this, so if you want, you can watch this on either stream. But thank you very much, Bernie, for hosting this and setting this up and making this possible. This is really awesome that you're making a science show that we can all work on together. But guys, if you're watching it on Bernie's stream, go give mine a like. If you're on mine, go back to Bernie's, give his a like and a subscription as well.
Go like this guy. He seems really nice.
Yeah, put it all over the place, guys. We want to get this video seen on as many different. Let's cross-pollinate. Let's get it going.
Well, yeah, diversity, more streams, harder to shut all of you down.
Dude, it's Venice Beach. Happy Halloween, man. Awesome. Good to see you, man. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the idea that there are higher dimensions, though, that's a whole happy. Yeah, he was King Arthur. Oh man, I gotta see the picture. I actually see. I was like a Jesuit.
Someone said happy Halloweeny.
Dude, I love the Halloweeny dog. That's a really good
Halloweeny. Yeah, I wanted a hot dog today.
Dude,
I'm a captain now.
Oh, Captain, where's
I like your hat.
Yeah.
It's appropriate.
There we go. Dressed up for Halloween. Yeah. So dimensions, and there's
right. That's a whole broader.
There's several different dimensions, and that there's like this moment of time. Each moment of time is the time dimension like the lowest time dimension, and then there's the highest time dimension that is the toroid of the universe that is all time at once. So it's like the lowest moment is like a disk, which is like a page of a book. And then it's like there's our reality, the third dimension, and that's a bunch of discs or pages, like when you're flipping one of those old comic action books, and as the pages are flipping, you're seeing the character move. That's like,
and then
us
there's video
in
game
between it
version
all.
where they're in multiple different
So
places.
are you
they can
talking
be.
about like a resolution or a frame rate?
No, it's an awareness of space. So you've got this idea of being here and there at the same time. So Bernie, have you got can you pull up the 10 dimensions explained video on YouTube, and we'll just like freeze frame it on a
Do
couple
you
of
have
little...
the link for it? Also, if you would like to share, why don't you just open up a page and share, Zertis, and then you can do the classic take over control because we're co-hosting.
Good God, he's got a point.
I
All
can
right.
pass the captain hat off to you, sir.
All right, let me see if I can get this to work on this Scholastic notebook. I'm trying to get this to work on. 10 dimensions explained. And it's a pretty good video from like, a decade ago, but it explains about the idea of stacking awareness of space. And so space is also, you can think of it in different ways, and that includes time. So let me see here. If I press T, give me like a large thing. So you've got the idea of like from the alpha to the omega of time. And even in terms of one dimension, in a line length, breadth, width, height, so you've got these ideas. But Pac-Man is this flatlander. Flatlanders live inside of this flat reality where if you were to have an intestinal tract, it would cut you in half. So you have to be kind of singular to exist in this reality. So in order to exist in multiple realities, you have to imagine we would seem very strange, like, Aurora Borealis kind of characters, right? Because the fact that you would look at the different parts of the human at a time, if you were like Pac-Man. But because of that, you can tell Pac-Man, hey, Pac-Man, I'm aware that you're in this flat plane that's really, if you go left, you're coming out right. If you notice this, you can't even tell because it's just this long, infinite plane, but really you're inside of this hollow sphere. And so I know this because I'm a higher dimensional being. I'm from like a fifth dimensional awareness. And so if you just give me control of your body and let me possess you, Pac-Man, then I can help you against these ghosts or these monsters, which is even a more confusing thing when you get into Pac-Man. But let's just talk about physics. So there's this idea then, right, of the fold of the newspaper. Bam, there's your Pac-Man kind of reality there, because like this idea of folded awareness, this thing can experience this, but only throughout this long chain of experiencing this and this and this and this and this. Then it can experience the whole thing. It can't be the entire experience. Where you're in the moment, you're able to think about being yourself today and then yourself tomorrow. And so that is awareness of length, breadth, width, and height. And other factors, those are dimensions, though. So you have maybe 4 dimensions of awareness, at least there, from yesterday to today, but also the idea of maybe from rich to poor. Like if you were to choose to go from one future to another future, the choices you make. So arguably you have more than 4 dimensions. You might have 5 dimensions, because you can kind of foresee how it would have been different if you had chosen one choice versus another choice. Okay, that's pretty much where human awareness starts to run out. We can get better with AI. All of a sudden in AI, you can start to think about like the range of probabilities which are possible. And that's a dimension in and of itself, the range of probabilities that something could exist in. But it's still not the same. Beyond that, you've got this idea of every possible every possible Big Bang or initial starting conditions coming out to every possible apocalypse, right? So you've got this Big Bang and then all the different apocalypses that could happen to it. But then you've also got another one where it's like the triangle sun universe or something. And then in that realm, there's an entire other series of apocalypses. And there's all these different sets of initial conditions that you would think of there. So this is just stacking up until you get to like 9 dimensions, which is then every possible ending for every possible beginning. and then also kind of the imposition of that, which is the 10th dimension. So there's a lot of religious texts and esoteric texts that talk about like the angels of the 8th degree, or having, you know, maybe like 6 dimension, 7 dimension angels or lower choir, whereas Lucifer and Gabriel and some of these are aware up to like the order of 9. You know, they have like a higher awareness, almost up to the entire God thought. But the God thought is the 10 dimensions. It's this idea of what if, or if not, everything or everything else, or didn't, or nothing, did or did not, you know, all kind of at once. And that, yeah, that I think is the difference between the realms and the dimensions.
Right. And like a conscious, so quantum consciousness would be a higher dimensional consciousness where now your consciousness exists throughout space-time. So if you're meditating and having an out-of-body experience, if you connect to like source consciousness, if you're on a psychedelic and having out-of-body consciousness, essentially this, and or lucid dreaming, going into the dream world, these are all a type of quantum consciousness or force state of consciousness going higher up, essentially, because your consciousness throughout time is what that is, or traveling through space-time.
Yeah, I think we're going to get to a point where like this is a big thing in the next 3 or 4 years, where we're talking about transhumanism and integrated humans as integrated circuits and integrated chips, and the singularity is the beyond just using emotion to help process the algorithms for priority driven pattern recognition systems, because that's the thing, right, is choosing what patterns you see, prioritizing what matters more, survival or reproduction or partying or whatever humans are doing, why, you know, and then having emotional responses because for whatever reason people like that for their sensorial explanation for intelligence. And then from there you've got something that can last for a very long time. It has the sensorial ability to see beyond the singular self, so you have a theosophical intelligence that emerges. And I think that's probably going to be a few orders of dimensional intelligence above what we're able to do immediately.
I fully agree, right? And so, and it's your consciousness, when you're saying, people say on the same wavelength or on a higher consciousness, it's like you're literally moving up a dimension in your conscious understanding and ability. And then you can also move down a degree lower into second degree consciousness, where it's just action reaction. When you're triggered, you're going on that emotional reaction or action, and that you're not thinking about the future or anything of it. You're not in your free will state, your third dimension consciousness anymore. You're going down into second level, which is just good, bad, act, react. And that's where the controllers try to put us down into that and on that lower vibration.
Right. Where's my let me get like a prop for a second. So like if you guys saw in that video, there's this idea of like the Mobius strip, and so you take a piece of paper and you twist it, and then when it comes back around, I'm trying to get that as I see there, but it goes inside out, it twists, and so the entire time you're walking along, eventually you're walking around the inside and walking around and coming out the outside again. So it's, you just take a piece of paper and you twist it once, and then that's all it takes to do that. But that is reality for Pac-Man. You know, that is the idea. He's essentially just going in this horrifying infinite circle, you know, that we're thinking of as infinity. But also, what does infinity really mean? Beyond the, yeah.
The soul is infinite. That's one thing I know as an old soul. And that I myself, like ever since a little kid, I had these dreams, like they're reoccurring, but it's like not the same dream. It's just like the same life over and over again. And I swear to God, it was a past life or a future life on Mars. And it was like way before that Mars movie came out, where like the tornado came out of the face of Mars. I would have these dreams where I'd be like running, and then like I'd be like running from like some attackers or something, and this tornado thing would come out and start chasing me. And it was like, that was way before that movie ever came out. And it's like, did I have a past life on Mars? I don't know. Am I going to have a future life on Mars? I don't know.
I like the idea that all the different I like the idea that all the different planets are the realms, are luminary realms, are just different times. And so realistically, you know, they've shown pictures where the largest volcano on Mars is the largest volcano on Earth, same geographic
Yeah, the
latitude and
19
longitude.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, I know what we're talking about.
And
Richard
there's a number
Hoagland
of
goes
examples like
into
this
that.
where on Venus as well. So it's the idea that we are looking at ourselves at different times, you know.
And
It's
so
also a
that's-
weird time for the solar system. All the magnetic fields of the planets and the sun are starting to shift.
Dude, not just retrogrades. We're talking about solar flares and
Yeah,
everything.
I'm not talking about astrology. I'm
Right.
talking about, like, you know, the radio frequency shifting on Jupiter, the chemical processes changing with the sun, and
Yeah, they've been saying that we're supposed to be expecting the worst solar waves in history for the next 5 years, basically.
yeah. So like the peak is supposed to be July 2025, but they're saying like it might start getting really heated December 2024. I don't know.
I mean, we've had already like on the outskirts of it. Like
Honestly, based on prediction models I've looked at, they're saying like this is the last likely mild solar peak years. So if we all live into the next solar cycle, which is 22 years, you know, the next high peak, which is like 11 years, half of the cycle, I hope things are okay. It sounds like it's about to pop off.
Let's get lead-lined Ethernet cables and go full Tartarian, and we'll be fine. We don't need to do this. The 5G can be free. Let them go.
Wait, did you say the 5G can be free? Let them go.
I mean, yes.
So I
Are
just
you
got
talking
an
about my
email
lack
back.
of internet?
Ooh, we can hear you loud and clear, Adam. I'm going to let you talk while we have you.
So, I mean, I don't know. The big thing I was trying to share before is if I'm right about the field forces are shared between all the realities. This is so important. This is how you end up messing
Dang.
with
Just stop for 1 minute and come back in.
Yeah, man. It's important thing. This is the most important thing you'll never hear.
Just pause. Just pause.
Every possible.
Come back in.
Brutal. Jeremiah, realms of reality, electric fields.
Sounds perfectly clear. And then this is the most thing that we will never hear. God damn it.
It's amazing.
Every time, man. You know, he's good to go until he talks.
Can anyone link me in with a phone call? I'm really serious about
Go, say
this.
it. Start ranting as fast as you can. Go. Realms, dimensions,
Well,
fields.
I mean, I don't know how much you heard before, but I mean, it's literally people can call my phone, and that works fine. I've got good
we're
phone
not on
service.
Zoom. You got to just do it, man. Come on, just go. Realms, dimensions, fields. Let's do it.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Yeah, we have a way to bypass this, and we're gonna do this all crude-like. All right, because we caveman our way through the technology.
You know, just get a computer that's never been hooked up to the internet before.
Nah,
Jeremiah,
just hold on. We're gonna do it right now.
You're gonna call. Jeremiah's gonna call you. You're gonna speak your phone. Okay, it's gonna be
to
beautiful.
this.
Yep, there you go. Andreas already knows what this crude caveman plan is.
I used to watch the screensavers. I remember Leo Laporte doing
Oh,
this once.
Ring, ring.
So, Adam, you want to mute yourself on StreamYard?
I am trying to figure out how to
Turn it up. Turn it up.
You want to speak?
Pull him out of StreamYard. We don't need him on here.
Yeah, you don't need to be on StreamYard. Just leave it.
Nope, I think I did. Didn't I?
All right, this is like coast to coast. Welcome
I told my phone to close every other application. Am I there?
Yeah, welcome to Toast. This is Halloween. Tell us a little bit about reality in the fields, bro.
Okay, so I don't know how much you heard about what I said before.
Not a bit of it.
What?
None of it.
Okay, so the basic idea is that if you take what Bob Greenyer told us as the bagel field, as makes up the quarks and that make up reality, they are basically the bagel coil field. Whether or not they're magnetic or electric, right or left-hand spin, what they're made out of determines which quark they are. This is a fascinating idea. Now, couple that with Wilbert Smith's point of view of the dimensions of length, then the next 90 degrees past length would be area, then volume. After you get our three-dimensional space, the next dimension would be movement or time, typically spin. The next one past that at 90 degrees to movement would be divergence spin, also known as electricity. Next one past that would be the curl effect of that one, also known as magnetism. And then the bagel coil, that would be the next 90 degrees. It's a really weird format, so that's the next one past that. So when you start looking at how realities are built, it's going to be that our reality is a lot more complex than physicists initially thought. We're made up of these really weird, complex fields. And if that is correct, it means that you get stacked realities because you can make these things in different sizes and different frequencies. And believe me, I made one of these things with a bagel coil at 7.2 megahertz. It lived around where I lived for a couple of days before hitting me. I had it happen 3 times. I've still got a scar on my arm from this stuff. It's not safe at all. But I had a radio on that same frequency I made it with, and I couldn't even pick it up. It still burnt me afterward. So I'm absolutely sure this stuff's possible. Once you create these fields, they're so looped in on themselves, they don't radiate anything. You literally can have our world here, the near astral realm, all of these other places the spiritual people describe stacked right on top of this place in the same place, and you're never going to see it unless you start looking at the field forces. All the ghost detectors I've ever seen use electrostatic and very low frequency magnetic stuff to pick anything up. Like if I walk across the room with my plastic shoes, I make enough to easily be detectable by these things. And then I've watched things walk past where I'm sitting and there's nothing visible there because it was a ghost doing it or something. Anyway, does that version of reality make, did I miss anything? Does that make sense?
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first on Toast to Toast with the bagel coil. That is the secret to the multidimensional reality, I'm pretty sure.
Right. And the big thing that gets me about this is it's not the only stable electromagnetic field force possible. There are other ones, such as the double helix, or I'm pretty sure,
Bernie,
like the hover coil and things like that. Like there are other versions of this. It's just one of many that are possible, and any one of them that are possible can happen. And this leads to an immensely complex world that makes us think that chemistry was hard enough to figure out, and we've got so many times more of that work in front of us to make this, to figure out what's going on with all this.
So I don't mean to simplify this, but it sounds like Russian dolls projecting higher orders.
Well, yes, and if you look at consciousness, like consciousness, as far as I can tell, is completely outside the realm of any of this stuff. Basically, consciousness, I'm pretty sure, invented reality. It's like inventing a perfect math equation, so absolutely pretty, everybody moves into it. And I think that's where we find ourselves now, that it was just such a fantastic invention that everybody moved here. And I'm pretty sure consciousness is outside of reality. Like I'm really sure of that because of like how to manipulate timelines and
Oh,
If
for
I wasn't
sure. I
connected
think they
before,
could
it
have
means
done
nobody
better on
heard
the
any of
meat
that.
guide, so.
How do I get broken up voices over a phone call? That doesn't
Oh,
make sense.
Jeremiah is preparing his experiment in the background.
Okay, well, I can't hear anybody else at this point because they were all talking over each other. I don't know, maybe everybody was all quiet listening to me.
Jeremiah,
Somebody
Adam's
else.
trying to talk.
What?
Yes, it is. He's trying to talk.
He's
Okay,
trying to talk.
keep going, Adam. We can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, well, I mean, I pretty much shared my version of reality, and I'm curious what other people think now.
I think that in the current dimension we're in, we have access to the other dimensions from a limited perspective. It's kind of like this projection, you know?
But, I mean, from any dimension, like, how many people have run physics experiments from the dream worlds? I mean, come on, like, take a pencil or an item of some sort and drop it from your waist, see how many, count 1001, 1002, how fast does it fall to the ground? Try it in this world, try it in your dream worlds. Like, the basic fundamentals of reality completely apply to every place you've ever been. Like,
the physics are so different when you're dreaming, though. Like, it's so easy to fly or do telekinetics, you know?
You can mess with it, but if you run the physics experiments, they're the same. Try it. Really, seriously, go run a bunch of detailed physics
I
experiments.
have, and then I woke up and I was super fucking disappointed.
For my notes.
It's also really hard to do. Like, a lot of people set up a control group and all the rest of that in your dream worlds. Like, really, most of the people I've talked with aren't capable of that. I don't think that's a thing for most people. But when you run it, look at the data and start recording the numbers, and I know that's a pain in the ass to do, you end up with different places. Like, look at where the stars are. I mean, I know that's another level thing. And
Elaborate.
I've looked at the stars when I was projecting, like while asleep or astral projection, whatever you want to call it.
But remember where they're at. Remember, like, the Mandela effect thing, that you can mess with reality? This is, oh my gosh, is that a real thing?
Honestly,
it
the
is
stars
so
I
not
saw,
that hard to mess with
the
reality.
stars I saw were not the stars I would see while I was awake. So that was a bit weird for me.
Dude, I had such a bummer when I went to South America because they all
not the same.
all different
Physical
constellations.
constants are all different, because that's why I told you to run the experiment in the first place, is because it's something different.
All I can say is, like, I got a really good model and feel and actually application of how it works when I'm not in the waking space you want to call right now. And then my conclusion is it takes a hell of a lot more energy to make it pop off. Like, if you wanted to move something with your mind, it just takes like a huge burst of energy,
As Jeremiah put it, the speed of light here is crazy fast. Like, we're really not just reality for messing with this stuff. And I've noticed the same thing. Like, all the dream control techniques, I learned all that stuff really well. They still work in this reality, but you need a lot more energy behind them to make them work here. And this is why I've been trying to develop a device that will basically melt reality into something more malleable. Because I'm extremely confident that's possible. But, it's like my friends call me a mad scientist, and they think I might accidentally kill myself because, gosh.
Worst case scenario, it's like
a microwave experiment, and the microwave didn't work. The diode, the capacitor, the magnetron, but I'm really sad it didn't work because, Bob Greenyer asked me to do it, and my goodness,
well, when
I'm
Bob
all
asked
up
you
for
to do
it.
something,
I'm
you
kind
at
of
least
annoyed
try.
I can't.
Well, let's face it. I mean, there are two kinds of people giving you advice. Those who are pretty convinced you're going to kill yourself, and those who are very concerned that you might kill somebody else. So,
yeah, if you pop off this dream device, my worst case scenario is something like the end of Evangelion, where everyone just like melts into this liquid, and like some Philadelphia experiment shit. Where I'm sorry. Bad on my language, but people in the walls, out of the walls, merging with other individuals. There's no separation. They call it a singularity, but it's like not an
It's
ideal
because
singularity.
none of those people were taught what was supposed to be happening. And it's one of those things, if you model this sort of thing, like the Philadelphia experiment, I'm trying to put, the field format is the exact same thing when the Earth's magnetic field is in the middle of shifting, which it's doing.
Yeah.
It's going to happen planet-wide. Everyone is going to experience this, and if you're not ready for it, if you're not coherent and focused, you might end up destroyed. And I think that there is a reason why mythology has all this magic in it. It's because it used to be possible at some point, and it has to do with the shifting magnetic fields. It's possible for a while, then it disappears, then our reality goes back to fixed, and it's all about the field forces in our formats. It doesn't mean that you can't create those formats artificially in some other way. I'd love to give people a training tool to get them ready for what's likely going to happen in the future.
Right. So are you trying to prepare people before, like, the cataclysm, so to speak?
Yes, would be the short answer to that. And I've got a longer answer, which I'm not convinced that anyone's interested in other than...
Hey, we're all here for the weird stuff, and this is like your life's
It's Halloween. We're getting freaky. Put
This
it
is
all
like
out there, Adam.
This is like your life's
Hold
work.
on. I heard somebody talk that wasn't you. Who was that?
It's Bernie. Bernie's saying it's
Bernie is
freaky
telling-
Halloween. Put it all out, Adam.
Yeah,
Put it all out.
Bernie is saying to, like, just, like, say it, say it all.
Okay, so
We want verbatim quotes back and forth from now on. No more telephone games.
one of my friends, a good friend of mine, which is, by the way, extremely broken at the moment, and he's one of those powerful people that's also, I don't know how I would describe him, but broken and talented and brilliant, but like not a functional human in any sense of the word. And he told me about this story. He once went out with a girl that was obsessed with secret organizations. That makes sense to me at the time. Met her in some sort of American Online forum in, 1995 or something. So she told him about this idea that ancient civilizations had run across some entity from wherever they were, that told them, we're going to share with you the secrets of reality, and you need to share this with everyone else. And if you don't do this, we're going to show up sometime in the future, and we will literally erase you from reality. Like, you need to share this with everyone because people need to be ready for what's coming. And I thought that was an interesting story. And then he told me that some bit of this information that these secret societies had passed on to themselves over thousands of years could be verified on Mars. And I don't know how many people remember the Mars probe in the news being found at not where they parked it. And I thought that was a really weird event to see in the news because I remember that happening. And anyway, he told me that this is what they had done, and then they verified their story that whoever it is going to show up and just wipe them out of existence for not sharing this with everyone. So, silly me, I tried to go remote view this entity or whoever it was that did this, and I got an answer. And the answer back that I got was so complex and extreme. I had no idea how to even interpret this. So I told them, like, this is way too much. I don't know. I don't even know how to get what you just told me. And I got a way simpler answer. It was, I am aware of what's going on. I'm busy right now. I'll get there soon. And this is one of those eye-opening moments of, has anyone else here, like, connected with what people call from above? Because I, at one point, listened to an enormous amount of past life stories, near-death experiences, that sort of thing. And I tried connecting, basically because I guess I'd heard all these stories behind it, with something else. And I asked, like, am I really supposed to be suffering with some sort of, like, nasal infection that will eventually kill me in a couple of months?
Were
Like,
you
is
in a
this
lot of
really
pain
what I'm
when this
supposed
was
to be
happening?
doing in life? And I got an answer back, and it was, I understand when people talk about that experience from above, they showed up, and it's like somebody showing up in the middle of a video game and just rewriting the whole damn thing in front of you and then going away again. It was from above. Craziest experience I've ever had. It was so odd, and it was... Anyway, it makes me realize that this other version of reality that I've heard, that there is a war between human consciousness and whatever the hell we call the aliens, that they're annoyed at us because we can attack them from above. Now that makes complete sense to me now, because I asked and got completely rewritten, and the only way I could describe that was from above. And this is why I think that idea of the bagel coil field and what frequency you're on, that whole thing matches with all of this. It explains all of the realities, all of how this stuff happens. And I think a lot of people just haven't thought about how complex all this stuff is and the levels behind it. And it's not that hard to build hardware to get past this stuff, especially not with, like, gravity. When they figured out the the quarks don't have any mass at all, but once you assemble them into something larger, that's when all the mass happens. Like, this is, when I first read that, I was like, oh my God, why did nobody tell me this? It's more important than all the rest of that. At least I think it is for the moment, but still, it's anyway, that's my worldview, and I'm happy to have had that shared with at least a couple of other people. And anyway, with phone calls, at least my internet isn't disappearing. Yay, $12 a month internet service. Anyway, I'm really actually crazy poor, but that's fine, because I've got everything I need, not things I want.
It's a matter of perspective. Like, what's your mindset and what do you really want out of life? You could have all the luxuries and be super stressed out, or you could be considered poor but be really happy,
So, hold it. I mean, I've got a web form. I think it's called spiritincontainer.proboards.com. No spaces between those words. Anyway, there's a thread on there called Time, which I have figured out how to mess with reality. And I taught a bunch of other people how to do this, mess with the timelines. And by a bunch of people, I mean like 15 or 20 people. And to this day, like 10 of them make extremely good livings off of doing this. It's, anyway, I've lost touch with quite a bit of them, but I think a fair number of them have not forgotten what I did for them, although mostly. But anyway, it's not that. If you want something in life, it's like really not hard to get. The dream control techniques they work in the other world, they work here. They need more time to work here if you have less energy, but I mean, look at my life. I had absolutely nothing, and I wanted a bunch of land, and I now have 10 acres of land. When's the last time somebody called you up and said, hey, I'd like to buy you 10 acres of land. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars, but, all you have to do is stay there and, like, make sure it doesn't go away. And I've got free rent. Like, anyway, it's one of those odd points of which I only pushed for the ideal reality, because I had been pushing for a bunch of other stuff before, and turns out, like, wishes can happen and they can go wrong. If I keep pushing energy toward the ideal reality, I'm not convinced that can go wrong. Like, I don't know how some genie or whatever, I think that's, by the way, how the genie stories even came up, is because if you make some wish, you push some energy towards something, it'll happen. I know exactly how to tell you to put yourself in the right state of mind to do that. I guess, do people want to hear that, or I guess they probably want to hear it, but like it's double-sided. It'll catch up to you if you do it wrong.
How? Why? Why is it double-sided?
Let's say, for example, you have a car like mine parked. Actually, it's not outside the building now that I think about it. It's a ways away. But anyway, it needs new tires. So let's say, for example, you go push reality to get you new tires for your car. And then you know, for whatever reason, you end up driving across some messed up whatever thing, one of those like tire strips that blows all of your tires out. So you push reality for new tires, and all of your tires are gone in your car. You can't get to your job or anything, so you are forced to get new tires. Now, probably what you were looking for in reality was to be able to afford the new tires, not to be forced to buy them. So, most people, the way they phrase things is, or the way they look or push their energy behind them is completely backward. You don't need the cause necessarily, but people mess up cause and effect when they're pushing energy around. So if you are asking for a specific thing, you might get it, but you might not get it the way you wanted. And it's mostly because, heck, most people mess up cause and effect, and they do it quite badly, and that's what I was getting at. And reality follows your intention. It's like that whole idea that you might end up where
let me get you back on the crazy subject of today. Today is about strange things that have happened. We all know that humanity has some major growing to do. There's no doubt about that. That's a topic that could take up the entire night, but let's get back onto the weirdness. I mean, it is a weird day.
So we talking about
like building a device that messes with time.
Yeah, dude, paranormal. Let's get into the strange things.
Yeah, what is the weirdest stuff you guys have witnessed or seem to have been able to influence? Let's talk about some of that.
I like that. My three strangest: ghosts at the Hart Mansion, a freaking pterodactyl flying over me at Drumheller Royal Tyrrell Museum area, that freaking Badlands area at 3:30 in the morning. I got it with the laser and everything, and it was freaking hunting. And
was it all?
number three,
did you see it like full on real, like hallucination?
Yeah, it was like a thunderbird or a pterodactyl or something. It was 3:30 in the morning. It was like several, like probably 600 feet up to 1,000 feet up above. It blocked out the moon for a little bit. It went so freaking fast. I was outside. I was able to get it with like the laser pointer, and like as soon as I hit it with the laser pointer, it like ducked out, and like it was nuts. And like my girlfriend saw me and was like, "Why are you tripping?" And like I felt like I was prey and being hunted. It was nuts.
I feel like I had an experience very similar to that when I was a kid. I saw an upright tree past the backyard of my fence, and it looked like a Photoshop cutout because the day was sunny, but the tree looked like it had been in some rainy hurricane, like some cutout where it was all shaded and dark and rainy and wet, and it just blew by with like a hurricane wind, and then it was gone.
So to emphasize here, she was staring out our window on a sunny day in, where was it?
I was in Georgia at the time.
And so she's staring out her window in Georgia, and out of nowhere, this extremely out of place tree with rain falling all over it in the middle of a sunny day
goes all gnarly and twisted, like out of a bad
It goes
storm.
flying by her window at like freaking hurricane speeds.
And it's upright. It's not horizontal. It wasn't like on a truck bed.
So the guy that saw the pterodactyl, where did he see that?
It was in the Medicine Hat Badlands, the same place that there's the world famous Royal Tyrrell Dinosaur Museum, and like there's all these caves throughout that system, and there is dinosaur bones everywhere, and it's like I'm up in Canada, but now that I think about it, it's like if those things are nocturnal and birds migrate, that they definitely could be flying back and forth, and it was during the summer that it was up there that I experienced this.
Did you feel like you were looking through a slice of time or something?
No, this one I straight like it just felt like I was being hunted, and like this thing was like doing a hunting run over the valley.
Yeah, I argued that it was, of course, not a.
Information from a teacher in New Mexico about dinosaurs.
Well, I got a good thing is that you look on Wiki, they'll tell you the birds are dinosaurs, and that technically there's no way that Bernie saw a pterodactyl. It must have been a pterosaur, right? According to our friggin' scientists who can't just deal with the fact that rebranding dragons is not working. And we need to go
the
back.
dinosaurs had to rebrand.
God, and they suck at it. It's just a bad
They
reboot.
suck
Go
at
back to the original. Dragons have feathers. Just calm down. People suck. I'm sorry. We need to get back on track.
My dinosaurs are about like a foot tall.
Giant dragons.
And they lay
Okay,
eggs,
I
and I eat
experienced
them all.
probably
They're
a
eggs
dragon.
all the time, and they are fantastic. I know all their names.
It's a bird.
And,
It's a
my
bird.
personal dinosaurs. They're wonderful. A bear occasionally tries to eat them all. And then, oh God,
It's a bird. It's a giant bird, and like birds aren't real.
Living.
Listen to Emily, right? No, but
Well,
like,
yeah,
so I've
we're
been
not-
to South
we're-
America. I used to
We're
see
not
giant
talking about
condors.
chickens. We're talking more about like dragons.
I used to see condors that were like
Dragons
20
are
foot.
chickens. Like, if,
Yeah, right.
have you looked at, like, there's a couple of big mistranslations that have been in history.
Have you
One
met a
of which,
dragon?
If
Because
dragons had been
Adam,
known along with dinosaurs, they would have called them the same thing. Just like,
oh boy, he's going.
Dude, 6
Right.
foot tall
Well,
chickens
have you
are
met a
terrifying.
dragon?
Are you kidding me?
Okay,
That's the
let
worst
me
thing.
tell you. Anything that I can basically kick like a football or eat in form of nuggets, drumsticks, or anything else, that's not a dragon, okay?
No. Sorry, Jeremiah, you're missing the point. So you got to imagine, really, like, let's get into this for a second. So you've got these starved, crazed reptiles that have actually lost their minds, and they become cannibals, and they're eating their young, and they're so hungry for generations that their jaws have lost their teeth and actually protrude. Their jaws protrude from their face, becoming these beaks that we're used to, where the jaw has no flesh on it. It's just this terrifying razor-sharp jaw that they use, and they run. These things run. It's 30 miles an hour in the Andes plains that used to be before they became the mountains. And they
Holy
would just
crap! I did not
hunt you
wanna
down.
be
There's
on the
nothing
ground.
worse than a bird. Birds, they're very real, and you should be very, very careful about them and keep them under, knee height, I say.
What's
At
the
best.
best? What's the
Or
best
get rid of them all.
defense? What's the best defense?
The best
with what
defense
you
against
just
birds?
described, the best
No,
defense,
best
like a
defense
shotgun.
against like cannibalistic dragons.
I think that's the reason why you had to wear these giant metal suits, aside from the fact that they help with EMF. You know what I mean? And like eventually you hunt them all down. It got to the point where after the by 1815, most of them are extinct because of the year without a summer. People are eating the last large creatures across Eurasia, and we get used to a world without giant birds. But if you go down to South America, there still were giant birds even into this point. And and you look at the dodo.
Completely agree with him. That's
Did
exactly
you
what
say
happened.
Urantia?
What'd you say?
Across where? Urantia?
No, he says South America.
Eurasia.
Oh, Eurasia. Oh,
Yeah.
Eurasia.
And
Okay.
South America. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, if you look
No,
across the
the
Eurasian
Urantia, but
continent.
that's not based in reality.
No,
Well,
I mean, I've been to castles
we weren't
across
alive back
Europe
then.
where they have
It's,
tons of
it's accounts from people
Yeah.
that were alive back then. So.
giant slayers, dragon slayers, giant birds, certain
Did they-
crocodiles.
Did they talk about what they tasted like?
Dude, I mean, everybody probably says everything tastes like chicken, but
I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to interrupt him. They obviously taste like chicken because that's where chickens came from, because they are tiny dinosaurs, and you can own them and you can go get them on your own, and
Yes,
they
you
are.
can own chickens.
Do you check
Watch
the venture in
Rat
churches?
Park.
Let me interject this because, okay, I know that you guys have probably seen internet meme videos, and amongst them, you must have seen at some point some kid or some lady being chased by a flock of geese.
Geese are vicious.
Has anybody seen that?
Dude, I mean, I don't want to talk about
I
it, but
haven't, but
that's one
I've
of my
been
worst
chased by a
memories is being
flock of
chased by
wild
geese.
turkeys when I was a kid. That
Oh,
was scary.
turkeys
as
are
hell.
bad
I remember,
too.
I
Yeah.
remember being chased by geese at the Roaring Camp steam train area in Santa Cruz, and I was height beak to eye with this thing,
Oh my god.
and it came and it bit me on the nose, and so after that, and it was around Thanksgiving. So then, like a few days later, it's Thanksgiving. My dad says, this is actually the goose. Remember the goose? Yeah, you do. This is the goose. We got him. We cooked the goose. They got you.
Oh.
And I ate
Oh,
like seven.
man,
I
that
ate like
is
seven
justice.
portions of the thing. I was like, I'm gonna get that goose. You know
Wait,
what I mean?
what is it? What does a goose taste like?
I mean, better because it's darker meat. I'm all about the darker meat than the chicken, right? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Too
dark
dry
meat.
otherwise.
Dark meat all the way. Like
Yeah, it's duckish. Bit
fatty
duck-like.
flavor.
I'm a fan
So-
of
Okay,
duck.
so I dare you guys, and I haven't put together my own compilation of this, but I seriously intend to. I want to take some clips of geese acting as packs and defending their territory against humans, and compare that side by side with the Jurassic Park clips of the raptors. And I swear to you, immediately, in a fraction of a second, you will see the parallel. You want to know what the little raptors are? They're geese.
Well, this is what Craig Venture and Church is working on is the Chicanosaurus, and what they did was they took the DNA. Jack Horner, God bless his soul, took the DNA of the chicken and started removing and changing some of the promoter sequences to allow the teeth to reemerge, the feathers to go back to the way that they looked in the prototypical stages, where they didn't fray outwards. Because what you've got feathers are frayed outwards from the they used to shed. Like lizard shed, right? And so so there's a bunch of stuff there. So what they're doing is they're like, hey, you can turn the DNA back on in the chicken, and the Chicanosaurus will be like a dinosaur essentially. And there you go. There's everything you need.
Chicken sauce.
Chicanosaurus.
Canosaurus.
Chicanosaurus. Chicanosaurus. It's kind of like it's like Fifth Element, where she's like chicken. It's like Chicanosaurus.
Like, now that I'm listening to this, like, I'm not sure a Chicanosaurus is a thing. Now,
it indeed is a thing since about 2010.
Chicanosaurus is what nightmares are going
apparently
to be
this is
made
some
of.
sort of racist thing against
Do you
dinosaurs
get like
that
those
never
big
happened.
turkey legs at like the Renaissance Fair from them?
I'm not sure where that question was. Anyway, it doesn't look like anyone else is talking with me right now. Anyway,
Oh no,
so
we're all here with you. We're just like all together in a weird way.
no,
right now.
Yeah, we're kinda
it's one
cracking
of
up at
those
how, like, ridiculous
hilarious
this
things
is.
that
Okay, so let's just bring this back on theme.
I'm
You're
sorry.
walking
I lost
home
my
alone
train.
at night. It's a dark alley on the edge of town, and you hear "Cow!"
No, he's probably gonna
Yeah,
tell you
sure.
about the bear he didn't see come up behind him.
Oh my! No, like the chickens versus
Oh,
the
this is
parrots. That was a broken experience, and it's broken on so many levels.
Yeah, you got home and like 30 seconds later there was a bear at your door. How did you not notice that?
Don't get me wrong. I'm all about it. I'm fascinated by the fact that birds are lizards, that they are reptiles. That's a really interesting thing. Warm-blooded reptiles exist. They have eggs. Some of them actually have pouches. Some of them gestate. There are several kinds of birds and reptiles that gestate inside of the womb. So it's very much like Alien 3.
Can I ask you what your opinion is of the
skink.
birdless, the wingless birds? You know, like the kiwis or the
For sure,
emus?
yeah. I mean, like, so birds started out without wings.
I suppose I heard some of what he was asking, and then it sounded like you were one of like my brother's friends that mistranslated the holy crap out of stuff just because he could. Now, I'm not sure which version of that reality
What are
is.
you going on about, man?
Adam, I mean,
What?
I'm not perfect, but what the fuck? I'm sorry, my bad.
I don't think you and Jeremiah are perfect. I know both of you really well. Like, I suppose this is like a bit of a, I don't know. would you call that? Like just sort of past life trauma along with a question with a perfect answer that I'm
If you
supposed to
can
ask,
answer
and
that
now I'm
past
like
life
all
question with a
distracted.
perfect answer, I don't remember it. So
Well,
No,
maybe
no,
Adam.
I've had
Hey,
things
hey,
happen
Adam.
in my life before I met you that I'm pretty sure you won't remember.
Oh, hey, Adam. Maybe you could use the the Charlie style transdimensional communicator, TDC for short, in order to contact all of your past selves. Hey.
Who may or may not sometimes be dinosaurs.
Well, I haven't
Yeah, right.
tried doing that, but that's like I've got. So anyway, I'm pretty sure I shared the web link a while ago as far as how to I have tried a long time to tell people how to manipulate reality or timelines. And it's one of those things that I'm pretty sure like most people don't get it. But imagine time as like another dimension, like length, area, volume. The next one past that is going to be movement or time. This is your future. So if you really look at that sort of thing and stop and analyze it, why would something in the future surprise you? If you're a consciousness that's absolutely immortal and time independent, can't you go mess with these things? And the answer is you probably can. The problem is that people's base reality from most of, let's say you're watching Netflix.
Oh man.
wait, should we do something?
Well, I should probably pop the camera on the reactor.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see that.
Oh,
Yeah, you set it all up. Let's take it. Let's see.
Hey man, well I'm gonna have to unfortunately, Adam, I cannot agree to the call and through the caveman speakerphone if I have to use the camera function.
Yeah, Adam, try to jump back in on if you want on the StreamYard if you can.
just jump
Yeah,
back in on the,
exactly.
StreamYard if you think you've been there.
And Charlie, where the hell are you, Charlie? I promised a Ghostbuster gun vacuum thing. I'm not going to bring up the email that shows that he confirmed he was going to be here. I'm just going to blame it on myself. And but speaking of emails, Tuesday, Jeremiah, Nancy Hutchinson with John Hutchinson wants to set up a phone call to confirm to just to talk to make a show happen together.
Yes. There we go. Big news there. Guys, also make sure that you're subscribed on both streams. Go to BurnEye's channel, Crypto Alchemist, if you're on Exertus. And if you're on Crypto Alchemist, go to Exertus and subscribe back.
Exactly.
And hey, go to tartarinova.com and get in the Discord. All of Crypto Alchemist's videos in general post there, so you can get a link to that.
Yeah, these guys have massive archives that you would really like. Subscribe.
Always subscribe to everybody because sharing is caring.
Yeah, the more channels, the better.
Sharing is daring.
Yeah.
Exactly. So should oh yeah, Jeremiah, you're setting up another camera
He's
to show
setting
the
up his
experiment.
he's almost done setting up the fission experiment.
Put on the camera so we can see him fiddle fart around.
Yeah, are you ready, Jeremiah?
I'm going on.
Dude,
If you're not
he's
ready,
got it
I got
ready.
a clip to play here of
Okay.
since it's spooky Halloween, we're gonna play a little Dan Winters astral projecting the difference between stargates and lucid dreaming and the rest of it.
Oh yeah, that sounds dope. Yeah, let's do that.
Interest in viewing. I understand you've been able to prove it scientifically.
Well, I knew Targ at Stanford Research, and of course, Elizabeth Rauscher was my best buddy. But my actual origins here was when Ed Wilson, research director of Monroe Institute, called me and said that Bob Monroe was afraid after he showed golden ratio binaurals was the most powerful trigger. And of course, at that time, they didn't know the physics that was imploding into longitudinal coherence interferometry, which is the only actual real physics, and explains, for example, why sunrise, sunset, and magnetic lines specifically enable. And it was only later then we developed the world's most powerful bliss binaural, flameandmind.com, which, of course, the the board members of Monroe Institute, Chris Kleinput and Claude Swanson, they were deeply into, but Laurie Monroe just couldn't get it through her head that she had to learn what longitudinal interferometry was, or she'd never be able to optimize. And now we have the frequency signature, of course, Therify.net, imploding plasma, and we trigger lucid dreams regularly. And I have the slides here prepared. And then now recently we measured the electrical moment in the brainwaves of Jean-Charles Moyen when his lucid dream became a portal and bilocation. And we have proven clearly the physics of what that bilocation is, which is the implosion into a longitudinal wave coherently propelled, what Gurdjieff would call assembling the light body or the rainbow light body. It's actually a field of longitudinal EMF coherence. And we have the frequency signatures now, and we regularly trigger lucid dreams. And at greater brainwave densities, that is the beginning of the only definition of what it is.
Very good. So before we invite you to share your screen, do you have any pointed questions for Dale Graff?
Well, does he know what coherent longitudinal interferometry is?
I have to confess, I have not heard of that term before.
Well,
you're not the only one, Dale. Interferometry. I mean, it sounds.
I know what that is, but not the term, the way he's using it.
Well, it's been called scalar or torsional, but that's the incorrect term. Coherent longitudinal EMF is driven through the Planck threshold, which is how the frequency signature is tuned. And that's the physics of what a stargate is clearly. And my film on that has been seen by about 50,000 people with Elena Denon on the physics of what a stargate is.
But the torsional word, I think, goes back to some Soviet work I've been.
That's right, exactly. American psychotronics, they called it scalar, and the Russians called it torsional. And it wasn't a bad term. It's basically caduceus, but now we learn to optimize the frequency signature, what that is, of how you implode the transverse into coherent longitudinal propagation. And that's what was called the rainbow light body. And that's the coherence that you take with you when you lucid dream. And that also defines where you can lucid dream and look at your body from outside your body if you know where the longitudinal node is, explaining why sunrise and sunset work and magnetic line crosses work, and tuning the brainwave frequencies to optimize.
So Dan, share your screen. So now I want to bring David in after you've done your brain dump here.
Oh, great. Okay, so I'm just going to share just a couple little slides here. Lucid brain. Share. Here we go. So this is Jean. Do you see my screen here?
Yep.
Okay, so that's Jean-Charles Moyen, probably the world's most famous secret space program survivor, French. And this is the measurement of his brainwaves here when his recurrent lucid dream became a portal and bilocation and stargate with witnesses. He went to the beach, came back with sand between his toes, and there were witnesses multiple times. And then we told him how to measure flameinmind.com. And you see the alpha to gamma cascade in the brain waves, 3 different measures here. The green is alpha here around 12 hertz, and the gamma is up here on top around 40 to 50 hertz. And the cascade has golden ratio, which are in blue, and octave harmonics, which are in pink. Basically, it's a tetracube embedded in a pent. And that implosive ladder, caduceus, is called phase conjugation. And that's basically how you implode. If you look here, this is the side view of that caduceus cascade, which is converting the transverse EMF on the left into longitudinal EMF coherence on the right, sometimes incorrectly called scalar. And that tuning here is how the Therify works and how we built the world's most powerful bliss binaural. If you take the actual equation for phase conjugation, implosion, and negentropy, Planck times golden ratio, you get in blue here. Maybe this is a bit too small to see. Let me blow it up a little bit. But in green on the bottom, 7.83, 14, 20, you see the Schumann harmonics, and you see the phase lock to the brainwave harmonics. This is an intense bliss experience here in brainwaves on the left, but that's mine, but I didn't climb all the way to the gamma. However, when you get there, then you have children able to see without their eyes, and you have when lucid dreams become a portal and a stargate. So this is the actual equation harmonics here in pink. And below, these are the frequencies Antoine Prieur used to heal thousands of cancers documented by the French government. So that is the physics of what's called origin of negentropy, the title of my book, and how Therify works. So we took those frequencies, we modulated in plasma, Therify.net, doing rejuvenation commercially in 25 countries, and we regularly trigger lucid dreaming. Now I'm going to turn off my sharing here for a moment.
Very good.
And so what happens is the out-of-body experience is precipitated when the aura is centripetal enough and implosive enough to convert the transverse EMF coherence into longitudinal projective interferometry, basically the rainbow light body or the Kesjan body, Gurdjieff called it. And that coherence specifically is measurable when the brain waves implode, and that density is what propagates the coherence. And so the ability, when kids see without their eyes, they see through a little vortex portal inside their head, and that plasma donut is what you take with you when you lucid dream, and when it's at higher amplitudes, that's called a stargate.
Very good. It was a the speed of light in his experiment was almost 1.618 times the traditional speed of light, and the means to measure it back in those days was not that accurate. So I propose it was the speed of, it was 1 times 1.618, and that's interesting, Dan. If you look at the data,
feedback. Let's get some feedback.
Yeah, okay.
That's an interesting point here, Dan. What's that giggle for?
Well, we said when the dominant velocity faster than light was measured at 1.618 times c, the speed of light, our theory of gravity would then be proven, as Tom Bearden says, longitudinal waves are gravity waves. And then Professor Raymond Chow measured it, indeed, between 1.5 to 1.7. So yeah, exactly. And I think David's making a very good point, how you feel. The point I would make is, as in The 9 Faces of Christ, the famous book, determining how many organs of perception you take with you in your lucid dream, and there was a sequence of exercises in that book, is literally the amount of coherence you generate in what was called the higher being body or the Kesjan body, which now we know exactly what that is. That is the coherence in the longitudinal field. So you can study how to grow your aura to that longitudinal coherence by measurement. And now we know the exact frequency signature. And last thought, the reason Tesla screwed up wireless power globally was because A, he didn't have the frequency signature. He didn't have my equation, Planck times Golden ratio. And B, he didn't know where the nodes were, the cross points, which are, of course, the dodecacosa Earth grids, which are the longitudinal nodes to enable global wireless power distribution. For example, Tesla chose 60 cycle, which was a huge mistake. The frequency at which the voltage required to stop the heart is lowest, whereas 50 hertz is required to grow carbon and all kinds of full range and most common healing frequency for cancer. So we've answered the question.
Right, indeed. Well, maybe
I think, if I may, that there was a pretty well documented episode when the government dragged Ingo Swann to remote view the backside of the moon, and he came back scared out of his wits and wrote the book. Previously, Ingo Swann was the one who demonstrated he could light a thermistor, literally a flame, with his mind. We called it flameinmind.com, the brainwave, for that reason. So he lit a flame with his mind through a Faraday cage at a distance. And now we know the frequency signature. We know the physics, why the longitudinal coherence could go through that Faraday cage. And by the way, Rick Hasson, who was one of the producers of Stargate, was the coordinator at Gaia TV when I helped found Gaia TV. And as producing Stargate, the letters they used on the ring of the Stargate were the shadows of the Ophanian-Enochian alphabet. And we know exactly the physics, because that was hypercube plasma donut symmetry to implode and project longitudinal. So the physics has all confirmed the stories.
Well, activating Merkaba or correspond or dovetail with this conversation.
Well, tetracubic symmetry, which is what Merkaba refers to poetically, tetracubic symmetry is essential to stabilizing. It's literally freezing like a crystal. And then on that ladder of coherence, it is possible to put the pent onto the hex. You tilt your head 32 degrees, the chin angle of the Sphinx, and you rotate, and the cube embeds 5 spin into dodeca, and it goes from hex to pent. And then implosion is possible, and then Stargate is possible. And if you don't do the last step, you're susceptible to parasites because you're not imploding. But I wanted to say something previous to this about non-locality. Actually, non-locality here is a name for inhabiting the array. And where you are centripetal in the array is where you have an organ of perception, because you implode, and that sorting at the phase conjugate point is the touch point to the stillness of the longitudinal array. So specifically, the distance to which you can propagate is the wavelength of the longest wave of coherence in that array. So for example, you're inhabiting an array right now, it's called Indra's net, the synapses in your brain. When you inhabit a larger array and you get centripetal enough, then you don't need your body anymore. So the nature of the array is the point. And that array is a longitudinal coherence array. Dodecki Kosa Earth grid is just the.
All right, enough Dan Winters for now. We've got Jeremiah's star in a jar experiment about to start.
Oh, I gotta
All right. So I guess I'm gonna leave this unmuted from over here. Otherwise, it'll be just ridiculously loud. And the way I've got it ramped up, it's already hot. It's right around it's a little over 200 degrees right now.
And of course, Jeremy's girlfriend makes him wear lead gloves, right? Come on, lady. What is going on?
Don't worry,
here?
I got the Geiger counter very close to that thing. It just ticks off the tiniest bits more quickly, so it's.
They can wear a lead apron at least.
Lead isn't the biggest problem, in my opinion.
Ooh.
All right, here we go. Let's ramp this thing up.
Let's do it.
All right, so I'm not going to run this for that long because it's a rather violent reaction.
Tell us about it. What's going to happen? What's it doing, scientifically speaking?
Okay, so what's happening right now is there's a tungsten electrode immersed into an electrolyte solution. In this case, it's potassium hydroxide and distilled water.
Go full screen, Bernie. Let's get this as wide as we can.
Okay, so you have a specific set of spectra. I'm not sure if I can even show this. I guess I could give this a whirl on the live, but a specific set of spectra. So right now what we're doing is burning hydrogen, and we're getting a bit of a potassium reaction. There's a different spectra for helium. So if we can smash the hydrogens together strong enough towards the cathode, where they actually, after we've ripped off their electrons and flung them back into the electrolyte mixture, which is generally quite charged from the anode, very wide surface area positively, then we can actually smash two hydrogen nuclei together and form helium. And so that's the goal here with this fuser, is that it's using an electrolyte immersion with a tungsten electrode under a liquid, and we're going to see if we can pump it up. So what you'll see is a significant color change. Right now you're looking at orange, and what you'll see is it start to go very yellow and occasional flashes of white. And that white is the H2 to H3, which doesn't happen often, but we get a few bursts from it. So let's take a look and see what happens.
Fire up. Let's make some helium. Oh, yeah. Look at that. You can see the whitish, pinkish.
With the 3D glasses, it's better. I can't hear anything. It can't be that quiet. What am I missing?
Oh, he's got it muted right
I am
now.
not saying anything because I understand that it should be between diffraction grading. Like, that's how we would see this stuff. I talked with him about this already. He needs diffraction grading. He ordered it. Anyway, by the way, I have got apparently several hundred diffraction gratings. Anyone needs diffraction gratings, just give me your mailing address. I will send them out to you. Rainbow Symphony is the name of the company I got them from.
Based.
That's where even Scientific buys a bunch of their hardware, and I only understood this because I personally knew someone that worked for both of those companies. Anyway, I never thought they would. Anyway, I would share this. Anyway, that's
you can also buy rainbow glasses from Andreas or get them in the Discord lottery or something like that. We have a bunch of Exertis rainbow glasses, which are covered with all sorts of cool things.
I am going to have to get me some of those.
I
That was
highly
cool, Jeremiah.
recommend.
That sounds.
You had that lens up there, and it was showing the different flashes, like a spectrometer or whatever, right?
Yeah, that was the grading that Adam was saying I need to get to. So I tried to show you guys the spectrum. I mean, it's not a quality, it's not a super high quality grading, but I'll put it in front of the lenses and you can see. So if I turn this thing off scale and tilt it just right.
No idea what you're saying.
It's not capturing it like
he
it
was
the
talking
first.
about diffraction. he was talking about diffraction gratings, and the ones that I have.
Smells a little weird. Kind of smells like burning plastic.
Thank you.
Oh, that thing more than.
Hey, Bernie, can you put on the screen for a second? On my solo, maybe. Here's my.
All right, that's enough of that. It's well more
Alright,
than.
okay.
I'm getting the H3 Spectra, so
You can get a pair of these.
Well, did you get a video of the
They're
oscilloscope?
pretty sweet. Rainbow.
I didn't scope this time.
Okay. Back to the solo.
Nice. Yeah.
So I'm
right.
I'm gonna let that thing cool down. It gets when it starts to get into that high energy reaction, it gets hot so fast that it's like a flash boil at the electrode, and
so you're-
it's very, very hard to control.
And can you explain the point of what you're trying to do by what are you trying to do with this H2 to get H3? What is this all about?
Well, there's an energy difference when we actually fuse materials together. So when we take two hydrogens and we turn them into one helium, we end up with an energy differential that radiates out, and that radiation is absorbed by the water and the electrolytes and creates extra heat from that reaction, so that we can then siphon off that heat and use it to turn a turbine or generate power, whatever we want to do with it, heat our houses. And that's the basic idea, is if we can do this simply and we gain extra energy on top of this compared to, say, running a resistive heater or something like that, now we have something that's going to basically act like an extra energy source slowly eroding away a very available material, which is tungsten.
Where'd you get this crazy idea to mess around? What is this helium-3? What kind of DuckTales comic book were you reading helium-3 in? Where's
It was
who else,
me.
Who else was into Who was into helium-3 before? Where's this come from?
This is a super old system that I'm not even sure who originated it, but years ago, somebody had this wild idea that instead of trying to make a Farnsworth fuser, they might be able to do some kind of a fusion in an electrolyte with an immersion electrode powering tons of current, because, hey, it's still a medium. It's an environment that can conduct the electrons and charges. So,
Isn't there something with like the Germans and like ancient aliens or something?
Germans are always involved. Wait, what? What on camera?
Good
I'm not German. I'm not involved. I mean, despite my.
No, not directly. Maybe episodically.
Oh man,
Of like German World War One, like to ignore all those documents. I'm not involved in any of this. But Germans and world wars. Remember, their number one thing they said before the Germans, they would take over the world with corporations. Now that's my take on the Germans. Now the Germans never did anything for me whatsoever, which is why I don't have a real farm of any sort, but still I have to pay all the expenses of that. Anyway,
Fanta's pretty good.
That's my range.
I mean, it is.
What?
Fanta is pretty good. I mean, since we're going
No
there.
arguments
All right.
there.
But okay, in terms of helium-3, it seems like this idea of like what are you ionizing helium for, other than storing it in water?
Transmuting hydrogen into helium, which they said is impossible to do, and well, we're proving them wrong. And then if we're making hydrogen and helium out of water, and we can separate those two and collect both of them, that's potential for airships right there.
oh man, I tell you,
Voila.
there's a whole other thing with airships that goes back to Tartaria.
Arturus, what kind
Elaborate.
of glasses are you wearing?
These are the Exertus edition rainbow glasses, yo.
So it just kind of is refracting all the light points?
Oh yeah, it's full rainbow all the time. Double-sided. Lots of interesting stuff going on in there too.
Have you
There's
ever
a QR
tried out
code that brings you to the videos.
Have you ever tried out the Chromodath 3D glasses?
I have a bunch of different kinds. I settled on just for like the mass manufactured, not in China, by the way.
Yeah.
Unlike Symphony, these are made in Vietnam.
As long as they work,
One
right?
step up.
Yeah, I like Vietnam, but I also was working with a Taiwan company. I'm probably going to do some with, because you can actually put pictures, so that it just shows wherever light refraction is of my face or something. So just millions of me. I didn't really need that.
You were
so.
designing your own glasses?
Oh yeah, you got to have your own rainbow glasses.
Man.
You got to have at least my own rainbow
Living
glasses,
my
because these are
dream.
the best.
I love playing with light. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're great. And then again, they have the XR code, so they lead you back to the YouTube channel and videos and all the content.
That's very smart branding. That's very good. Yeah.
Cha-ching.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some plastic
perfect Halloween plug.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to put on some high contrast videos right now or something, it's gonna look really dope to me and Arcturus and anyone else wearing like 3D glasses.
Arcturus?
I'm sorry. Who am I looking at right now?
Oh, you got your 3D glasses on, so you can't
Andreas
read.
I can't
Zertis
read
is
shit.
Arcturus. I like that.
That's not
Who
bad.
am I
I'll
looking
take it.
at?
I'm Andreas. Yeah.
Andreas, I'm so sorry.
Remember? We know each other.
Andreas, yes, I do remember.
We've
you.
had heart to hearts, We're like a David
we have
Lynch
had
movie.
a couple heart to hearts. You're awesome. I'm sorry I
You
messed
too.
up your name. I don't
No,
even
it's
put
all
my
right.
name out there, so
You can call me whatever, as long as you call me. Forget the lady who said that. But so flying airships, Tartaria, Jeremiah had some was that
Okay,
Adam?
so guys,
Jeremiah?
I know not a lot of people have thought about this concept, and this is a wild one.
I
John,
know you guys
Keeley
are
had this-
skeptical about Tartaria. No, keep going.
Well, let's just say beyond Tartaria. Let's go to something a little more recent. John Keeley, a name that is quite dividing amongst the research community, because some people think he was a fraud and some people think he had the real deal. He kind of lives in that weird realm of misunderstood technology, just like the guy who built Coral Castle. And what's his name? Ed Leeds Scallon, thank you. So Ed Leeds Scallon is in that same kind of category. They both used a particular type of technology. Leeds Scallon used a set of acoustic resonators in conjunction with electromagnetic coils. And we have a multitude of systems, but John Keeley primarily focused on sound. And it turns out, if you think about it, there are a series of papers which say if you pump a huge amount of photonic energy at a monochromatic wavelength inside of a closed photonic chamber, that traps that light and causes it to bounce back and forth a huge number of times. And you combine multiple light sources. Think about, same kind of thing inside of a laser. Just imagine a laser is built, but the light never escapes. So the actual energy that's contained within that plasma channel or within that area filled with photons is way stronger than it would be outside at, say, flat space-time. So the general idea is now you have a system which suddenly seems to have extra mass because you've put in a bunch of electromagnetic energy in the form of photons. And at a certain amplitude, you're going to begin to see small effects where the weight of that chamber starts to drop. Well, John Keeley said, that's really, really complicated. Let's not go that way. Let's just pump a bunch of sound into a chamber and use phonons to create motion in mass so that we can reduce the weight the same way.
That's some ancient knowledge there.
It sure is.
Gerald's up. Gerald, you hopping on, buddy?
Yeah, man, anytime you're ready. I mean, I showed the little silly star in the jar, but this idea that you can use sound, and by the way, G, I sent you to, you should have gotten both your email addresses. You are ready to come on at any time, so I'll just finish the story, and hopefully we see you soon. So, yeah, this idea is you can basically create a motion, a vibratory back and forth motion within a solid material or something made of matter, and by doing so, because that now contains only the same amount of mass that it started with, it hasn't lost or gained any charges. All the protons are still there. All the neutrons are still there. Same actual physical matter. But now
it's the middle out hand job. It's it's where you're holding two with one.
Basically, yeah, in terms of the molecules and how they're really enjoying it, they're really disconnecting. They're in ecstasy. They're starting to fall into another frame of reference. and they're isolating themselves from that system because they have lots of extra energy, and that energy makes time slow down from the inside frame of reference, where the space inside of that thing gets larger. It's larger on the inside of the matter, just like the TARDIS.
So you're saying it's denser?
Well, it is. It's denser, but in a quite contrary to intuition way. It may appear denser, but it responds to gravity in the inverse way because it has been phase shifted to now repel against the gravitational field, since its magnetic moments are effectively inverted.
Are you saying it's locked into certain coordinates of local space-time?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that coordinates is based on how much voltage it has on it and exactly how much kinetic energy it has gained.
But what makes it adhere to those certain coordinates,
Well, this idea of quantum locking is certainly not a simple one to get into, but what it really does is it amplifies the electric fields of all the individual particles that make up every single atom. Every electron, every proton, now vibrating with significantly greater energy, are now oscillating back and forth and creating something called a relativistically amplified magnetic field. And that system can now reach out with huge fields to all the other surrounding matter. The ground beneath it, the atmosphere above it, the walls to the side, trees, people, everything. And it can now push off of that stuff because its fields have reached out so far, it effectively is locked in place, just like a superconductor at superconducting low temperatures over a magnet.
But those discernible nodes are only coherent to a certain point, right? It only expands so far.
Exactly. And the level of its expansion depends on how long it runs without the ability to have motion. So if you just kind of hold it down, it'll build up enough energy over time where it becomes more and more separated, just like Matryoshka Neskin dolls, Russian Neskin dolls, as they say. You build up these fields on top of each other, and it becomes delocalized over time with a greater and greater effect, until eventually it's so far separated from all the rest of the frame of reference in the surrounding space-time that it isolates, and it effectively has no mass.
So it's a pocket inside of space-time.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
And it appears usually as a bubble. For some reason, it seems that
You mean the shape, if it could be measured, would look like kind of bulbous?
it would look very spherical because it tends to be that in the natural symmetry of space-time and entropy for all fields to neutralize in the far-field zone, you end up with something that looks from the outside to be spherical. Now, if you get close, it starts to change shape as you begin to enter its strange space-time distortion, just like a warp bubble. But from a far distance, it does look quite spherical.
So, just kind of curious with what you're describing. Anyway, my camera's not working, is it?
That's fine. We're not on camera either.
Well, I'm going to disable it so that it doesn't. Anyway, I printed out this little 3D printing thing from a Hallback array, a circular one from someone. He had 3 downloads of this with all of his videos.
I'm guessing you're talking about
And
Omega VC.
I printed the thing out at 160% because my magnets were 8mm, not 5mm. To stick inside the thing.
Yeah, that's Omega
Anyway,
VC,
I know I
Adam.
need to super glue them in or whatever it is. What? Oh, my
Welcome,
internet's gone
Gerald.
away again.
Welcome.
Oh, heck yeah, we got him.
Is it time
Okay.
for secret sauce?
Adam, maybe you could call again through Jeremiah.
I think it's time to call out.
Well, hold on. Let's put that on pause because we've got Big G.
Oh, you got it? Okay, G's here. Hey,
Bada bing, bada boom, bada bam. There he is.
how's it going?
Everybody, can you hear me?
Everybody's gone with my internet. I don't know if people can hear me anymore. Anyway,
Welcome, Gerald. We can see you and hear you.
Yeah, what's up? How's it going?
Oh, you can hear me. Okay. Sorry, I'm kind of a little bit shaking the fuzz out of my ears. I fell asleep on the couch. Go figure. So how is everybody tonight?
Happy
Pretty
Halloween.
good.
Doing
Yeah,
better now that you're here.
We looked at an experiment that Jeremiah did on making helium-3 out of hydrogen from water.
Really? What would we say that seemed like a script? I see
I don't
that
know.
comment.
I keep
That
seeing
was
it
awesome.
come up. I guess it's comforting to those people.
Too many big words, I'm guessing. I'm guilty of that sometimes.
But Gerald, what are you up to?
What am I up to? About 5'8". No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I just came on to say hello. You know what? I have not been able to come on and introduce myself and talk to everyone because I got hacked twice. My computers went down. Couldn't get my cameras working. So finally I got myself a new laptop, and now I'm at the stage where I can finally talk to people again. So yeah, you'll see a little bit of me here and there.
So
Girl,
what's your
it's always good to hear from you.
Yeah, so for people that don't know you and your interests, what would you say? Give a little background of your interests in technology, your science, physics, all that stuff, right?
Okay, well, let's see. Background. I'm a tinkerer, I guess you could say, right? I don't have much of an education when it comes to my background, other than I've been playing with this stuff for 12 years. Playing's quite not the right word. I've been electrocuting myself for about 12 years. And
yeah, that's what's up, buddy.
Yeah. And what else have I done in my past?
Well, yeah. So, what about? So, when you say playing with this stuff, like, what do you mean? What kind of stuff?
He's our coil guy.
Electromagnetics, electrostatics, magnetic vortexes. I play with a lot of induction coils. I've made, close as the count goes, I'm close to 220 separate coils after going over all my notes. They did not all work. Don't kid yourself.
That is a bonkers
I've got a little bit of
coils.
experience when it comes to this stuff.
I mean, how many hundreds of pounds of copper have they gone through to wind these things, man? Hundreds of pounds of copper.
That's nuts.
Oh,
yeah.
So, are you writing your own book on the geometry
schools of
coils,
copper
or...
insane. Sorry?
I'm sorry, are you writing your own book on the geometry of coils, or do you have some awesome references?
I am actually writing a book right now. It has to do with the coils. There's a whole section in it and what it does and what they're going to do. But as far as references goes, I could just tell you the references that I learned from was John Bendini, Russ Grease, Mike Powers. Let's see, who else was an influence in there? Steinmetz was an influence in there. Most of the greats, honestly. I stand on the shoulders of a million men. I'm just another guy in his garage working on stuff that managed to get somewhere, I guess. Or maybe somewhere, we'll just say.
Pretty much every single great product of the 21st century started in some guy's garage just trying to mess around with something you thought could work.
So where are you trying to go with it? What do you want to do with it? You believe in anti-gravity, or are you trying to go free energy?
Nikola Tesla was also one of my great inspirations, and free energy is how this all started out. That's what I was searching for originally, was free energy with these coils. And I got into all kinds of different experiments. I've probably built every free energy device on YouTube that there is and destroyed almost every one of them because none of them worked. But when you got into coils and and I've also gotten into alternators, which is a whole other story. That's a neat little system in the way it came together. Like, everyone here talks about dreams and how they can influence you. Well, I built a whole generator influenced by dreams entirely, and it works. And it's an alternator that runs off an electrical treadmill motor. It has 3 alternators that run off of it. One alternator charges the battery bank that runs the whole system, and the other 2 alternators charge 2 large battery banks that are in the next 30 days, I'd say less than that, maybe 2 weeks, will be operational and running my house. So I'm at that stage with that. When it comes to anti-gravity, that was more of a, what's the term I'm looking for? Not an accident, because it that would be wrong to say. It was more like an enlightened find.
Like divine
Because
timing or something.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound religious, but like, you know, divine timing happened. It happened.
Or just a natural consequence of, you know,
Yeah.
you invent one, the other comes with it.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say that, because I would call it the manifestation of divine abundance.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So, yeah, and when it comes to the coils, well, again, dreams played a big part in it.
Do you have a schematic for that you could share?
You know what? That's like one sec. Let me take some water here.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Do I have a schematic? Yes and no. I have a system.
I know asking for a schematic of like,
that's like
everything is like a really tall order, but still, Yep.
Like maybe you guys have a talk kind of thing.
Okay, so it's like this. That's what Bernie referred to earlier as the secret sauce, right? Well, everybody knows that when you're making a sauce and you're working in a kitchen, you don't just throw a can of tomato paste or tomato soup into a pot and call it a day, right? You got to put in the base. You got to build up the sauce. Then you got to simmer it, render it, and then it sits before you and it's complete. So basically, if you want the secret sauce, it's going to take some groundwork for me to lay before you guys can understand exactly how this is going to work. I could just give you numbers.
I'm hungry, but I want that tasty mouthful, so I have some patience.
And let's face the major difficulty here. This is a matter of linguistics. As usual, human language is the tragedy of communication. I mean, that's the truth, because we all have different ways to describe things, and trying to describe something that's particularly complex and putting it in the right set of words that can universally be understood is quite an undertaking, especially when it's kind of existed in your head as a series of images. And, you know, just think about trying to take the way that Tesla looked at things and describe that in a simple sentence to somebody. So that's the difficulty we're up against, but we'll get there. And he can definitely, I believe in you, Gerald, to get him started. You can bring it together.
Tesla was a genius.
But like, is it divine knowledge that he thinks maybe, you know, he needs to be discerning about?
Well, it's got to be accurate, right? Because to be useful, it's got to be actionable, and that means it's kind of got to make sense to a lot of people, and that's a very choice set of words.
So where do I start? Where would you guys like me to start? Would you like me to start how the coils came about, or would you like my piece of presentation I was going to put to APEC?
That would be dope.
It's kind of that'd be fire, actually.
Okay, so
that too.
I'm not going to give you the full presentation because there are schematics and certain emails that I have to send to Jeremiah for him to show certain things for me. So you're just going to get a very condensed version, so to speak, right? Let's see.
Yeah, he's working on the raw peripherals here, so he's not really set up to do all the share screen or slideshow or anything like that. But
no,
right now we're just going to go with it, basically.
Oh, okay. I thought it was on a screen share. Okay.
Not to mention
that's the restriction. Yeah, so I'll get those things and we'll go back over it.
So I have to give you guys all an apology before I start, because last night was up to 2 o'clock in the morning with sick kids, and that's why I fell asleep and I'm late. So if I'm a bit foggy, I apologize. Let's see here. You want me to start this? Well, essentially, we've all been working towards searching for or experimenting with the key that unlocks the molecular bonds to the infinite energy structure that governs our universe. So, which in turn, in my mind, as we said already, is a manifestation of the divine abundance. For tomorrow belongs to the people that prepare for it today. And I believe that's us. So how do electrons push through a wire and at what speeds? When you flip the switch on a circuit, we dump a bunch of electrons into one end of the wire, and at the same time, the electrons in that wire, sorry, let me reverse that. We dump a bunch of electrons into one end of the wire, and at the same time, the electrons want to spread out, making the wire neutral once more. But instead, they move in a symmetrical, evenly spaced kinetic motion. Now, in order to achieve a steady state current flow in the wire, equilibrium can never be allowed to be achieved. So remember, the electrons want to spread out in the wire, making it neutral. But if we keep pumping power into one end of the wire, equilibrium can never be achieved. This means that in steady state, electrons are slightly more dense at the negative end and slightly less dense at the positive end. So because every electron is a charged particle and every single electron emanates from it an electric field, all other electrons are acted upon by this field. As each electron moves forward, one's inertia adds upon the next inertial movement in a wave-like motion. So the speed of electricity has less to do with the wire and more to do with the speed of communication between electrons in that wire. So in order to change the speed of electricity, we have to locally change the speed of light by filling the space with a material of energy that interacts strongly with electric or magnetic fields. Due to the fact that the speed of light will be different in that material than the speed of light in something like air or the vacuum. I lost my place here, sorry. Whether or not electricity is made of all these simultaneous waves coalescing into one wave function propagated through the speed of light is the question. Light at different frequencies travels at different speeds in different media. Either way, if it produces the same observable, it is an equally valid wave function. So to add to that would be through electromagnetic acoustic resonance, electron spin resonance is achieved, which in turn gives rise to nuclear magnetic resonance, making way for dynamic nuclear orientation. So that's kind of the beginning of the presentation I was going to put for APEC. There's more to it, but I wanted to just sort of get that out in case anybody had questions so that I can give an understanding on that. Does that make sense?
Man, was that good, man. Hey, comments in the chat, all caps. If you got questions, all caps. Make them easy to spot.
I brought notes because,
Super
again, I
chat.
fell asleep, so I apologize.
I mean, so get questions about maybe a potential ion or field. So your idea. So how do you imagine flow of energy? Is it a vibration? Is it a flow? Is it a field? What does that all mean?
I think it's all of the above. It's vibration. It's the flow of vibration in the field itself. See, the field itself has to build up, and it has to not create a space, but fill a space in order for the system to work at its full potential. So you're creating a field around the coil itself in order to create a system for the coil to interact in between that energy and the energy that you're funneling in through the coil. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and what do you think about entropy in general? I mean, do you believe in entropy, or is it really like just deviation?
Actually, entropy is part of the system, but you use it as part of the system. So how do I explain this? So like back EMF, for instance, when you're pulsing, no, pulsing would be a wrong term. When you're using, say, a solenoid and it's heating up, the back EMF is what's causing it to heat up, that current, that when you're using your system itself. This system that I have created, sorry, that's wrong to say, has been shown to me and created, uses the back EMF. It actually uses 7 different instabilities to become stable itself. It uses the skin effect. It uses parasitic capacitance. I apologize. The other 5 on my list I don't have in front of me, so kind of a brain fart at that point. But it uses the instabilities that in electrical engineering we try and get rid of, try and negate, so that we can have a system that works stably. Well, I use those to make this system stable. Any other questions?
I'm putting some up on the bottom of the screen if you see them.
So it says electric run all, but startup off the 1 kilowatt needs 850 watts to get that 1 kilowatt on generator, and why we don't general use could put 4 together get 1 kilowatt, but wait, man, it's not like you needed to be that cryptic. We could have tried to.
I'm just trying to understand how to put that question into an answer.
I know what you're trying to do, kind of. 4 and 1. We need to look at quarters again, but so 850 to get 1 kilowatt. Okay, so you're trying to get an extra 150, and then why can't we use 4 together to get 1 kilowatt? So why can't you get surplus energy from 4? I mean, this is grasping here, trying to grab, but I think that's what they're saying.
They're talking about gas-powered generators. Why we can't use? I misunderstand.
Dang you, Troy! How dare you dare us to extrapolate on such a profusely grammatical question?
Any odd effects during any tests you can recreate? Any bugs or corollaries, overlaps, or echoes?
Good question. It's actually one of the reasons why it hasn't been.
If it matters,
hang on one sec. Let me finish this answer. It's one of the reasons why things haven't been just given out easily, because there's safety mechanisms that are being tested and put into play now. Without them, I wouldn't feel right giving this away to everyone, because if you don't have these safety mechanisms in play, you could really hurt yourself. I don't know if you can see it now because it's starting to fade, but both of my arms were damaged heavily on my skin and my wrists, as if I had put my hands in a bubble at a 45-degree angle. I got liver spots, or I guess that's what you would call them, on a mass scale on both of my wrists. They've started to fade. I didn't get sick from it or anything. Really itchy though. And only God knows how long or what sort of damage has been done over long term. So I've been working on safety mechanisms in order to negate that entirely. And I think I've gotten it down. So soon enough, we're going to have these plans out to people. In fact, going over with Jeremiah, and I'm having them pressed out this week. I'm getting templates made to be handed out to individuals for the coil system to be made like kindergarten style, real easy like. So that's going to be coming in the near future. But all the groundwork for all the safety mechanisms had to be done first, because if you're not following them, well, you're playing with fire, right?
And electrical fire is a dangerous kind of fire.
Yeah, you're playing with plasma, essentially. It's through the skin effect. The whole system itself is like, it's plasmatic when it's completely fired up. When it's running, I wouldn't touch it personally. I've had an experience actually. I wonder if I should mention that. Should I mention that, Jeremiah, that experience?
Sure, you should mention.
Yeah, I would keep I'd keep the one specific one that you're working on now out of it, but there are many others that I would say definitely mention.
The side effects of doing this.
Okay, I'll give you a for instance. I was working with high voltage, and I had grabbed it I grabbed the coil through reflex because it was going to fall off the table. And when I did so, I was locked in place. I couldn't move my body. And the sound that reverberated through every cell of my body, I'll never forget as long as I live. And it was a little bit unnerving considering I was stuck. Like I was locked in place. Couldn't move. And everything vibrated, sounded like as if I was standing on a 16-inch woofer and it was turned at 1,000 watts max. And I was just, it was crazy. So this stuff isn't stuff that you just throw a battery on and play with. It's basically my point. I've been shocked many times by it. So there's that. I'm drawing a blank on some of the bad situations that have happened. So give me another question. Maybe something will kind of come to my head. I'm still foggy, waking up.
In terms of electrocuting yourself, some of the things that you're trying to do, maybe that led to that.
I'll give you a for instance. I was charging capacitors. Okay, so this coil, I shouldn't say this coil system, one of the ones that I was working on has 12 separate ferrite coils that go around the outside, and they all had capacitors on them. And at one point I was testing to see what size capacitors I could put on there and how much power they would take. And I got to the point where I was blowing them up for fun.
How long can a capacitor hold energy? Like, I've heard that people can open up their motherboards with their on their computers, like their power units, and then maybe haven't touched them in like months or something, or a year even. But that the capacitor could still have a lot of charge.
Yeah, it depends on the system itself and how that circuit's wired with the capacitor, and that will define whether or not the charge is held or actually bled off. Most systems are set up so that the capacitor bleeds off, but not all.
What would you do if you were trying to build a capacitor that was designed to hold charge for like ever, for instance?
I don't know. I have never built a capacitor itself, honestly. But if I was to build a circuit with a capacitor to hold that charge forever, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I can't answer it. I'd love to give you more, but there's an in-depth answer on that. It's not just a simple throw a diode in there and lock in the power and hope that nobody touches it while you're doing your thing. But no, I can't answer that question definitively. It's too broad of an answer for you that I'd have to give. There's a lot of background to it, right? Electronics are fun, but there is a lot of parameters in electronics that if you don't know, you're not going to get anywhere. I used to bridge amplifiers together when I was younger. And I had a room that had 36 speakers in it because I was trying to go for absolute perfect surround. And it was an interesting experiment, I'll tell you this. Bridging the amplifiers together, I found out a lot about electronics that I didn't know. I blew a lot of amplifiers up when I was younger. So
when you bridge them, is it mainly because too much power is running through the capacitors, or what was the problem when they were blowing?
I don't know. That's a good question. When I was younger, I didn't know a lot about theory. I didn't know a lot about how things were built properly. I was one of those garage monkeys that would try and slap it together and see if it worked. So a lot of the time I'd fry transformers, pop resistors. I was doing a lot of things I shouldn't be doing. So yeah, I don't know how to answer that question other than putting it in front of you and going, this is what I shouldn't have done, and this is how it blows. You know what I mean? I was not an electrician when I was younger whatsoever. I'm not now. I'm somebody who I intuitively look at what's going on around me and try and find the answers to it. I love puzzles. And this was a puzzle I couldn't give up. And the things that I found or came across while using these systems, well, I wouldn't say they're unique because they're written in many different scientific papers, but they're definitely out of the realm of normality by far.
What can you think of anything they're used for in general, in military or in sciences?
Yeah, I try and stay away from the military. Sciences, I would definitely say there's about 5 aspects that could be studied that would accelerate. I wouldn't say mankind, but definitely groups of mankind. One sec here. I got to step out for just one moment. Please excuse me.
No worries, Gerald. I know Charlie is going to be pretty chapped that he missed this one because he had so many questions for Gerald, and well, you screwed up, Charlie. We needed your Ghostbuster vacuum device today, and we would have given you Gerald, but where are you, Charlie? Where are you? Any thoughts or comments, Adam and or Jeremiah, while we're waiting?
Sorry about that, guys. It's midnight where I'm at, and I guess I was a little bit loud, so I'll try and keep it down. Can you guys hear me all right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you want to elaborate on what you think the 5 things that would accelerate mankind or groups of them are, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I hope I didn't stick my foot in my mouth on that one. Some things I don't like to divulge because I wouldn't say they're dangerous, but they could be used for dangerous means. I mean, there's a free energy aspect to this. There's a alternative propulsion aspect to this. There's also a healing aspect to this. This is something that I've tested, done. I had a volunteer in the beginning of doing many different tests. This person had gout on their foot, and they did everything they couldn't get rid of it. It was a big pain for them. And I was watching lots of material and reading lots on William Reich, and the healing devices that were out there, the Priority device. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. And so I had dug up some frequencies from Raymond Reich, and I was doing experiments on myself, so to speak, just testing to see what the system would do. And my friend was complaining about his gout, so we put it on the frequency 432 and just lightly run it over his foot. Did it for about a week every day for about 5 minutes. And his gout was completely gone after that. Wow. So the mechanism behind how we heal, I believe, can be activated. I believe that it's an ability that every person has, and it can be activated or pushed. No, push might be the wrong term. More, I'm trying to think of the right word. Sort of just gently brought out, and as soon as it's activated through an outside means, kicks into full gear, and our bodies do the right thing of what it's supposed to. That's kind of what I believe how the system works. But again, there's lots of tests that have to be done on that aspect. The other 2, I think I'm going to leave out for now. That will come later on when I start sending out templates for people to make and do their own tests to confirm or deny that the system works, whatever. I'm fully open-minded to criticism by far. Then I will do a full presentation on all the aspects that this system does and doesn't do, and the safety and harm that it could do. So I will leave those two aspects out for now, Andreas. I apologize, but it's probably prudent to this conversation.
You gotta be safe. You gotta be careful. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these ideas are on the verge of being accomplished by so many people, but there's such an expense to it. It's a license to get access to the work. So there's such a few group of people that actually are going to be able to push over into that. And it's all simultaneous with Klaus Schwab's, you'll own nothing.
Oh, yeah. And be happy, right?
Yeah.
Learn nothing and be happy. Well, I don't believe in that. Sorry. When it comes to free energy, I wouldn't classify this other system talk about as free energy. I'd say it's more efficient than free. The alternator system, it could run, theoretically, it could run a full house.
But you still need some sort of like power to uptake it, for
well,
instance.
The way that it works is it uses a small 48 volt battery bank that runs the treadmill motor that spins the 3 alternators. One of the alternators has been rewired to 48 volts. So as the system itself is running, it's charging the 48 volt battery bank that's running the system. So the additional 2 alternators that are running off that system, you could call them free. I wouldn't call them free. I'd call it efficient. Because as the system's running, you're charging these 2 large battery banks that have nothing to do with that 48 volt battery bank. And it's not costing you anything. So I just say it's efficient. I wouldn't say it's free.
Quacks like a duck, but it's not quite alchemy. All right. Yeah.
Well, you know what? If once people build that system and confirm it, or again deny it, then I can say for definite that it's free energy. I have 3 people that are building it right now. So when they get back to me and all the videos come back, that's when I'll be presenting it as free energy, or not, maybe just an efficient battery charger, a glorified battery charger, if that.
That's a safer way to do it. Mass manufacture and put out a Kickstarter out with the PDF file or something.
Well, when it comes to that system, it's everything you can buy off the shelf. All the parts, everything. You can order off Amazon or go to your local hardware and buy everything you need. Go to the auto wrecker, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
when it comes to the coil. Sorry?
Oh, it'd just be cool to be able to retrofit something. Hack something into it,
Yeah.
So I want to point out something about that system. With alternators and a prime mover, there's all kinds of videos on the internet claiming one alternator, one motor, somehow magic over unity system. And there are fundamental problems with that. So here's the thing that I can tell you will never read about or hear about unless you go way back and look at some of the old patents. There's something called a kinematic field. And there's also something called dynamic nuclear spin.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a rotor inside of an alternator, just consider that thing as a current carrying rotor, which has wire in it, and a stator, which has wire in it. All that copper is made of atoms, and those atoms have nuclei, and those nuclei have spin. As the magnetic field flux rotates around the rotor from its position and moves through the stator, those little nuclei get recessed, and they produce a field that reaches outside of the alternator and extends to a surprisingly large distance. Now, this field is so fast because it is, again, on the subatomic nuclear level that you would struggle with all of your might to detect this field. But it's there. And if you can synchronize multiple units and basically get them to act as a coherent set of rotating mechanisms, you now get a new field that doesn't exist otherwise independently of each one of those separate units. And that new field, because it is in a superposition, does not obey all the principles of our classic thermodynamics or our conservation of momentum, because superposition fields are well known to have these kinds of violation principles. And so this is one place to potentially look for all the academics that want to say, well, how in the world could this energy be coming into the system and why might it actually be happening? Consider the superposition of all of these nuclei spin fields and spin waves traveling through the vacuum of space, or that distance between alternators, if they are aligned, so that you could potentially utilize all that momentum that's otherwise not part of the electrical circuit.
Well put. You also brought up another point. If you look on YouTube and you see all these alternator videos, they're usually a single motor and a single alternator. That will never work. You can never get more out than in that sense. That's why I say the system's more efficient. I use 3 alternators, not 1. And the system runs into itself. So it's kind of, I know I'm not giving it justice by not showing you a video or pictures of it, but it's a pretty compact system, pretty close together. And all the points that Jeremiah brought up, very valid. I believe that they, from one to the next, they complement each other, so to speak. I don't know if you can punch up video burning on it or not. If you wish to, it would be on my channel. It might be a bit of a pain in the butt, so maybe we'll leave that.
Are you driving them with direct current or pulsating DC?
Sorry, have I tried?
No, how are you driving those coils?
Oh, okay.
Is it direct current? Is it pulsating DC? Is it
It's pulsating DC through an NPN transistor from a function generator.
What's your okay, what's the what you'd call it? The
NPN transistor?
No, like your percentage. I'm trying to think of how the phrases work of like how on versus how off it is.
Your duty cycle. So I'm 50% on,
yeah,
50% off square wave. That's what I'm using.
Okay.
Basically an on-off switch. So
well, that's
try and picture this. When you turn a light switch on, all that power that goes to your bulb goes through that line and has to fill that line before the bulb actually turns on. So all that line being full, when you flip that switch off, that power that's sitting in that line has to go back to the neutral. And it goes back to the neutral super fast, almost the speed of light itself. So when it comes to using the coils, you're turning it on and filling all that wire and then shutting it off really fast. You're pulsing power and creating a field because of the full wire or the mass amounts of electrons that have filled that wire at that split second. So when you're shutting the switch off, normally you would come back through the same wire and be back EMF and, back to the system. But the way that this system works, you fill the first coil, your primary, through back EMF, it automatically, through induction, gets rerouted to the secondary. And I use that ability in order to move the electricity really quick, which brings its efficiency and multiple other factors. That's the video I just did. That I only have 6 ferrite pickup coils around it. I call them pickup coils because they pick up excess energy from the outside. Yeah,
I watched that video.
That's a small
I watched that
tank.
video a while ago.
You watched it?
A while ago. Well, I mean, it was just posted, so couldn't have been too long ago.
I don't know.
All right,
here's what we got.
The YouTube
Whoa, hard to
algorithm
explain.
apparently connects me with fantastic people.
Every meter here is attached to a pickup coil that's wrapped with 120 lines of 22 gauge. I've only got 3 meters, but there's 6 pickup coils. The secondary has this little cap bank here that's run from a half. It's got a diode that goes from the secondary, like a half wave rectifier, and then it's going to go over here to my resistance board to see what kind of resistance I'm going to get out of it, and then back into the secondary to be filtered into the system, I suppose. We'll get all that on camera at the same time. I'm just setting the stuff up, so we'll see how this all turns out. All right, thanks.
Right. So I watched this sometime near sunrise earlier today. I had no idea who you are, or that I would be able to talk with you later today.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're one of those brilliant people I've stumbled across on the internet, and anyway, yep.
Well, I don't know about brilliant, but I'm here.
Dude, I think everybody here is absolutely brilliant.
I would say this group of people, this community is absolutely amazing. A lot of geniuses in this community.
Yeah, I'll second that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like
These
I
are the
said
smartest
before,
people I've ever met, man.
I completely agree.
It's awesome.
I couldn't have done any of this without
My just
everyone that came
disappeared
before me.
again.
Bye-bye, Adam Signal. You have to go. Space cases on the drift and no one knows.
Yeah, is that who's in the background? Is Adam there?
That
Wait,
was Adam.
hold
For some
on.
reason, he didn't recognize your name
Right.
or your voice, but he's talked with you before, so.
Yeah, I remember actually.
Yeah, that's Adam.
I've never talked with Andreas before.
And it's a pleasure.
First for me.
I love to see the stuff that you're working on. I've seen a few of your videos, so it's pretty great that you're here. I wonder about some of the uses though of like field energy more and more because of it. It only opens up more questions for me.
Well, one of the aspects, I guess I could let a little bit is, as far as I've found, and has been experienced and tested by others, it creates a sort of force field.
Right. That's terrifying and awesome because you could use that for so many things.
Yeah. You can't use a radio near it when it's on because you hear it in the radio.
Blocks out the radio even. Wow.
Yeah. So AM, yeah, I can pick it up on AM. I can pick it up on FM if it's close. And cell phones, let's just say I don't use them when the coil's on. I've gotten.
Okay, well, I guess we gotta pop this one in here from Redcap Goblin. And what a question this is. Ever displace time or have any temporal effects? And that is a very relevant question, Mr. Goblin.
Should I even discuss that issue?
Maybe just
until they cut us out. Yes.
Yeah, and even like maybe have shifted realities or as broad you want to go, however you want to take that. I mean,
okay, I'll tell you a story.
Halloween
this
begins.
is a good one.
It's not that long. Take it with a bag of salt, of course, right?
Bags of salt are really heavy. I'm sorry, I just got back into the room here, but like a tiny bag of salt really is heavy as hell.
Well, take it with a big bag of salt.
It's not to be taken lightly.
There you go.
What?
So I was doing an experiment. I had my setup going. I won't explain the full setup other than there was a neon, 90-volt neon involved. And inside that 90-volt neon, ball lightning was created. It was purple, pink, blue, green. It was amazing. While that was occurring, I had done this experiment in my office. There was 3 other witnesses with me, and my oldest daughter and my 3 youngest kids were in the living room. I was living in a very big house at the time, so there was a lot of space between us. And the walls were roughly 2 feet thick concrete. This was an old Victorian home I was living in. So as this experiment was going on, we didn't think too much of it. It was a nice, bright, sunny day. They seemed to get even brighter. It was amazing. Coil systems running in the background. And I'm looking at the clock and watching the time. Okay, things are going by, no big deal. So I shut off.
Hold on really quickly. We got a solid $100 super chat from Redcap Goblin, tech support fund. Thank you very much, Redcap Goblin. That is huge. Thank you for the acknowledgement.
That is awesome. And for answering his question, please go on.
So as I shut the coil off and started to gather information as best as I could, my daughter came to the door of the office crying. And I couldn't understand why she was crying, and I'd asked her. She said, "Where did you guys all go?" And I looked at her confused, asking, "What do you mean? We've been here the whole time." She said, "No, you weren't. I just came here and opened the door, and none of you were here." So that kind of unnerved me a bit. And I'd walked down the hallway, went into the kitchen, and realized that the clock in my office and the clock in my kitchen were off by 3 minutes. Now, I should go back a little bit. Every time I do an experiment with my coil, because of the things I've heard through many different testimonies of people that work around this sort of tech, I always coordinate my clocks between my office and another room just in case something happens that I'm not expecting. And that day, something happened we didn't expect. So my interpretation and the others that witnessed it was that time stopped in that office. My daughter came to talk to us. We weren't there, but none of us left the room. So it's not explainable in the sense where we know what happened, other than the data shows that the 2 clocks are off on time. When my daughter came to the room, we weren't there and none of us left. And I have all that on written testimony because of the situation that occurred. So temporal displacement, yeah, I believe it occurred 100%.
Totally.
What was the coil format? I'm super curious because the thing I made a bunch of years ago, it messed with time, but all of it ended up getting evened out at the end of it. So no matter what you did in the middle of this thing, you pull the clock out, it would be the same time, but within, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds, it would tick off time randomly. So what was your coil format? What in the world did you do to create that mess?
My coil is 750 feet on either side, and it's geometrically connected to Earth in the sense where it's
750 feet. What on either side?
That's called the ground loop.
That's a star fort, bro. That's a Tartarian.
Oh
star
yeah,
fort.
I could.
That's the exact size.
Actually, it's funny that you bring up star forts because star forts are directly connected to this tech.
Oh,
Directly. See, this tech, I believe.
You know the people that are hosting this channel, and if you've watched it a while, the star fort thing, my goodness, like you can't stop them from this sort of ideas. Nor
there's been
can
a lot
you
of great
stop
stuff on liquid mercury and star forts and the rotating forts. I've been to a number of forts myself. I went with Stellium 7 to the Spanish fort off the coast of Javia. I've been to the Peruvian fort. I've been to a number in South America. And, you know, I've talked to Beagle, who does the starfort.com and has gone and indexed all of the star forts as well as the Crusader forts and any of the military bases built on top of former star forts. So I mean, there's a lot to be said about the idea that they're used for electromagnetic, and the towers next to them. I mean, the lighthouses is a whole other conundrum, but it seems
Yeah.
like they're associated for this as well.
I believe those lighthouses are obelisks. They're energy transfer systems. It's kind of the way that star forts worked. I know of another star fort that most people don't bring up. It's not hidden per se. It's in the front of everybody, but it's not talked about. It's in the middle of the north. It's way up there. So star forts were everywhere. Like, this thing's close to Antarctica, for Pete's sakes. So, I mean,
yeah, it's crazy. Are you in Canada or where are you at?
Yeah, I'm in Canada.
Yeah, Canada's got a bunch of star forts that they just started to put into scientific journals. If you look for Bastion Fort's LiDAR scan, and you'll start to see Fort Anne's and Fort McLaughlin, and there's like a few other examples of Canadian star forts, which are all really essential military strategic points that have amazing wiki pages that are very brief about like the main battle that they're forgotten about, when like Louisiana was like a major empire and extended into Canada, and of course, you know, Beaver Wars and everything across and in between.
Well, there's a star fort. Most star forts would have blood dripped into them through, at least we would assume, through battles and war of previous times, right?
At very least, right? Or
Well,
mixed into the
biological
bricks.
Biological warfare, I think, wiped out most of them in the United States.
You know, like
before
the Attack on
United States
Titan
was a
Giants one. I like the Attack on Titan's giant one. But the thing about bricks having crystalline iron from blood mixed in, so that then they solidify, you get like a kind of special petrification process. And quartzing that happens. Quartzing, you know, because it helps. The blood helps with the quartzing. That's what it said on the slogan for the brick
I
companies.
believe that blood is the secret ingredient to Roman concrete. I could be wrong, but I believe it is.
It's
Just because
reasonable.
the way it
Yeah.
congeals and the way it moves.
They loved using them. So I have a
Very
Croatian family that do amazing concrete, and they swear by it. And one of the things is fish. You know, the fish, because it has
Yeah.
a lot of the
Yep. It binds it almost in a way that we don't normally see. That's
Right.
what I believe. Yeah. There's a
Modern
star fort
civilization denies all kinds of other alternate anything, whether it's physics or simple things like geopolymer concrete or anything. The real thing that gives it away, that I was completely enamored with, was my friends I made with archaeologists, and they show these pictures of what appear to be stone beads, and they have the marks on the inside of them of being like literally painted and cast onto straw. And apparently that wasn't enough for the other archaeologists to believe. They were really sad for these people that, you know, paint or had to drill all these holes through these little beads. And it was absolutely hilarious when they figured out that no, they weren't drilled in, they were painted on, and then the straw was broken out from the middle and all the rest of that. Anyway, I was a web forum person-y thing that ran their website for a long time. I've got the MySQL file for the entire discussion for all of that stuff, and it just absolutely breaks my heart that there's like, you can go out on archive.org and get a bit of this, but most of the stuff was cleanly lost because it was all contested and nobody believed in this stuff. And anyway, great archaeologists with fantastic reviews and all the rest of that. And they were actually worried that people would kill them. And that's why I still archive that the Pleistocene Coalition website to this day. Although I think they all forgot about me, pretty sure.
I've seen a bunch of geopolymer, smart polymer companies that make roads for militaries or for countries in South America or something, just to do like a runway or something. And, you know, the thing is, all the stuff exists. You can get it. It's actually a lot cheaper if you just pay up front instead of over the next 20 years for the thing.
Right.
But not everyone wants to... What am I missing?
But what I find hilarious about the company that makes these geopolymer roads and runways, these were my friends. That their only goal was to prove to the geologists that this stuff was possible. So they opened these companies worldwide to go do this stuff. And even after being a productive company, pulling in actual money to do this stuff, the rest of reality told them, the rest of the archaeological community told them, yeah, you've built a runway in Australia. You didn't do that. They literally took them and told them, you didn't do this sort of thing. So all those roads that were built with geopolymer, all the runways, all of that, according to archaeology, never happened. They deny this stuff. They've been doing this, what, like 20 years now? With commercial companies building this stuff. And this is when I knew these people. And this is when they were making money off of it. And they only did it. It just absolutely drives me nuts that people say this isn't possible, because these were my friends 20 years ago. And they're still doing this. They're still pulling in.
But I think it's going to be
money.
really, it's practical for the reset, because, you know, if you're going to bring mastodon GMOs in and Chicanosaurus or whatever, and you want biodegradable suburbia that burns down 3 times as quick, and in general biodegradable wireless, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Get everything down to a point that, you know, suburbia is not designed to last, and then mushrooms can eat all the oils in the roads. Paul Stamets shows us how. So it's going to be really easy to replace the whole thing a lot quicker, because it's just so temperamental. You know?
Yeah, right. Make it out of wood and particle board so it can just be gone in a flash fire. And
mushrooms love to eat the sucrose inside of oil plastics. So all the oil paints, all the oil in your sofa. Yeah, it's going to be great.
What?
We apologize. Adam every once in a while goes very matrixy.
Was
he gets sucked into the matrix.
That question at the
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think we lost Adam again.
Looks like we did. We're coming up close to the 3-hour mark.
Yeah, is there anything you want to make sure we cover before we hard out at the 3 hour? Is there anything you guys want to like make sure we get covered? Anything else you want to make sure we show?
Yeah, sure. Let me pull this thing out.
Yeah, there you go. See?
All right. Just because it's got,
was there something else? I missed that last part.
Jeremiah is supposed to pull up his camera and show stuff. He's very man behind the curtain these days, you know.
Yes, he is.
Meanwhile, Bernie's got some ore mist that he can swing around. I mean, what we really need to do is get back in touch with the Biocurious
lab. I can't
lab.
wait to experiment with this stuff in geopolymers.
Yes.
Interesting.
I'm looking forward to that myself. I believe that geopolymers are unique in the sense that if we can find the right mixture and resonate that,
data connection is not working.
You're bang on to the very big key breakthrough right there, Gerald. The resonating of it on the monoatomic scales.
Resonating.
This is a solid.
Go ahead.
Sorry, that's very solid. It's a very solid line of thought to get into.
Yeah, resonation is a big factor in a lot of the work that I do. Resonating is it's huge. But go ahead, Jeremiah. I don't mean to.
Yeah, I figured, you know, I don't know if Dan's still hanging around in the chat, but this is the newest iteration of Dan's grab inductor. Made quite a few changes to it. There are a lot of wires. So, yeah, a lot of wires. 32 in total. But
wow. It's a piece
inside,
of
the changes in this version are, you know, we've got the stripped wire on the inside. So we have an ion emission source, and that wire will have an extra torque placed on it from the electric field of the decaying magnetic moment inside of the rest of the copper. So here's the key with this thing. Every single one of these coils is balanced to either be full wave, half wave, or quarter wave, and they are all specifically cut to an exact copper length and copper mass so that they can resonate with each other coherently in a single wave function. So this coil kind of snaps down on top. You end up with a ball with a whole bunch of wires. And right now I'm leaving them at their full length, but ultimately I will terminate them in the inside of the globe. The only trouble with that is I have to slice off exactly a scalar resonance amount of each of those wires. So if I say on my hemispheres, which have twice the wires, this is again Dan Koster's design, this hemisphere has exactly twice the copper on it of this pancake coil that we're looking at here. And this pancake coil has exactly twice the copper on it of this column coil that we're looking at. The column coil is spaced to a diameter and a height using exactly half the length of copper that the pancake coil is wound with, so that it just doesn't quite touch the inside bare wire. Because here's the thing, this bare wire hemisphere, both the top and bottom half, these are AC coils. So they're carrying line voltage, 120 volts AC in the US. So the inside coils, they're carrying DC voltage, ran off an isolated power source, a battery pack with a variable resistor or with a small buck mode power supply. And so they're just setting up a basic field. Now inside we have two pancake coils. Let me see if I can coax these out of here. There we go. So we've got two pancake coils. You're seeing 4 layers. But anyways, these pancake coils are configured so that they're basically faced back to back, and these two halves, both this side with its pancake, this side with its pancake, are identical to each other and just simply placed back to back. They're also wired identically. So if you were to place this all flat on the table and wire every single connection, they would basically all end up parallel and with the exact same connection points. And by placing them like this, we end up with 2 north poles compressed directly between these 2 coils, which have nowhere to go, and 2 south poles on the outside, creating a pseudo monopole. The column coils here do the same thing, but here's the key with this system. Well, one more anyways. The inside of the hemisphere is the opposite wind direction of the pancake that faces it. And the column coil's outside facing winding is the opposite direction of the surface of the pancake that it's mounted on. So what you end up with here is a whole bunch of fields where you got a north on a north and a south on a south and a north on a north and a south on a south, all the way up the stack. So you have a whole bunch of fields that have nowhere to go, canceling wave functions. And when you cancel a whole lot of electromagnetic energy in a very small volume of space, and it has nowhere to go, it's got to go somewhere. You see the power going into the system, you see the meters going up, and you see energy being lost here, not as heat, but just seems to be disappearing. So where does it go? Well, there is an answer to that, and we call it the temporal field. Now, the temporal field doesn't exactly exist in our modern physics. We don't really talk about such a concept because we consider that the energy levels required to produce any kind of displacement in time whatsoever are tremendous and unobtainable. But this effect is possible because we can actually access, through the tuning of oscillating fields with exact amounts of copper mass between these sets of coils, a dynamic nuclear spin, which down on the subatomic scale happens to have the energy density required to produce these kinds of phenomena. And so here we actually do have a way to access something that can affect the stress energy tensor and begin to modify the variable refractive index of space-time using fairly simple off-the-shelf things like speaker wire, hot glue, super glue, and a whole lot of wires.
That thing's gorgeous.
It may seem complicated, but really what we're looking at here is canceling out a whole bunch of fields until we end up with enough stress energy in a local volume of space where we can begin to start and really screw with the way that each of those spin nuclei or their magnetic moments can couple with all the external gravitational fields. And since the proton is about 1,800 times or more heavier than the electron, that's where most of your energy, that's where most of your inertia in any given material and most of your mass is going to come from. So if we can make those things basically spin in such a way that they can't couple to the gravitational field, and if the gravitational field is indeed magnetic, which there's plenty of evidence that it is magnetically based, or should I say torsion based, we can now have a way to disconnect from that gravitational field and basically make that thing act buoyant.
Any advice for a bikini truther? I want to buy some copper, but I don't know a good millimeter width to buy.
We're still trying to figure that out ourselves.
How about
Yeah,
like how
depends on what
Scanlan
system
did
you want to build?
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead. Say it again.
Oh, it depends on what system you want to build. Like if you're building the coils, the geometric coils that I work on, or the gravifier, that's a different millimeter altogether. The gauge that I use generally is 22. I'm not sure what gauge that is, Jeremiah. I don't know if you have an idea.
They label it. I mean, they're calling it, what is it, 16 gauge, but
This is what I'm working on next.
Dang.
oh man, yes. Oh, I know what that can do.
And I wanna submerge it in geopolymer.
Oh yeah.
That would be
Because
really something.
I have an idea of what this might do.
Well, we got to get you on with what's his name, Nick Cook.
Sorry, go ahead.
We got to get you on with Nick Cook geopolymer discussion.
I like the idea of
Paul Cook for the geopolymer.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I
See, I got my
also
names
do
mixed up
have Nick Cook coming on for his UAP studies and his free energy books that he's written. So,
But the Royal Rife and
Paul
Wilhelm
Cook
Reich.
is geopolymer, and we will have to get him together with Gerald and be doing some geopolymer experiments.
But the Royal Rife and Wilhelm Reich connection here, the Oregon geopolymer with the field, and I'm curious about how many sets of polarity you're using, because you said there's multiple, and so it reminds me of Edward Scallon's Coral Castle, Sweet Jenny, what's her name? Sweet Jenny, is that right?
I think
Sweet
it was
16?
Sweet Jenny, yeah.
Yeah,
16 generator, because of course, right, the generator, the Sweet 16, the virgin magnets, there's 16 virgin magnet, or whatever the deal is. Magnets are 8 magnets with sets of polarity. So it's the question. So I wonder, are you trying to use anything like that, or is that, have you thought about that at all?
You know what he used is a basic principle that could be applied to many different systems. He was using basically north-south, north-south, north-south in a circular configuration. Well, this coil does that similar in solid state. That's why there's pickup coils around the outside, and that's why there's 12. There's 12 nodes and 12 antinodes that are created on the outside of the coil system. Now, the polarity factor is always changing when it comes to those nodes on the outside of the coil itself. But the polarity that I use for my secondary and my primary and my secondary, those are also, well, positive, negative polarity. I mean, I'm getting my back EMF on my secondary. So, yeah, I guess I am using a system very similar.
Interesting, right?
To Ed Leeds Scallon. I wanted to add a little bit to time temporal fields that Jeremiah was talking about. I believe that they can be created. In fact, I believe it's one of the missing parts to all the equations that we're missing when it comes to anti-gravity. I think time is a very specific factor. I think it's related to gravity. So, that being said, anyone else want to add anything to what we're discussing? Or do you have any more questions, Andreas?
No, I mean, I love where this is going. I definitely think we need to meet back again and do another talk and look at some more of these experiments, and also where this next project goes. I'm pretty excited about that. That's pretty cool what you got going on there.
For me, there's 3 aspects that I'm trying to develop. One of them being free energy while anyone that's near the system itself is healing. So I've taken the core out of a gas-powered 7,000 watt generator, and I'm wrapping it with a coil in a very specific way to obtain energy out of the core from that gas-powered generator, and at the same time project the healing frequency out while it's running. So that's one of the projects that I'm trying to achieve.
Bernie, can you pull up his website again? So everyone make sure that after this is done, or right now, you might as well, in the middle of life, get yourself subscribed to Gerald's channel. Make sure that you get the button that's the bell and you click on that, because if you don't, sometimes they don't get you all the subscriptions. So you want to make sure you see all the new content coming out, especially what's about to come. Yeah,
so this is Gerald's channel right here, and the crazy part is he's so censored. You go to his home, look, oh, this channel doesn't have any content, but wait, videos, oh, there are.
Suspicious.
Imagine that.
If you have any playlists, maybe make some playlists. If you go into your settings, there should be a way that you can put your videos on the front, unless they're just really messing with you, but they could be.
I definitely will make playlists. I had a previous channel that got taken out. I was censored before censoring was even a thing. Back in 2009, 2008 is when YouTube started to explode. I had a channel called The Wisdom Walker, and I actually did a tutorial on how to build coils on it. So the channel was taken down, it disappeared. I couldn't get my hands on it at all. Charlie C managed to find it, but there's only I think one video on there, maybe two. The series that I created.
It's like 3 or 5 videos or something, but 2 of the videos are like repeats of the first. So I think there's like 3 videos in total, and all the coil winding videos and all the instructionals and tutorials are gone.
Yeah, you gotta get stuff on Rumble and OdySee. I say Rumble's good because people go there. OdySee's great because the stuff will never be gone. It's so safe to put it there. So get yourself back.
Well, I mean, at this time, Rumble and OdySee didn't exist.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
This was long. This is right at the beginning of YouTube exploding, like 2009.
Oof.
So there's 7 videos that are missing. I don't know where they went to, but they're
maybe type in your own name into Google and start doing some timeline searches for reaction videos. Because if it's that far back, there might have been someone who saw it and reacted. You never know; it could be saved by someone else out there. Guys, also in the description, you've got the link to this channel, and it's in the comment. The most recent comment by Bernie and me is the link to the channel, so you should be able to get there. Make sure you subscribe.
Thank you, Andres.
And lastly, I'm typing in, please subscribe to my brand new Rumble channel that I just created, and the link is now in the description.
Sweet. I got one too. Do a /Exertus for me, would you, bro? Add that in there.
Okay.
Because I got a Rumble channel and an OdySee channel too. And, we try to get all the content that we have here on every platform. And what we're working on is, we're having a dual stream where there's a secondary show. Now, obviously, you would go to that show for other reasons. You have to be very careful. YouTube doesn't like it to say why you would do that. It is I think you could say it's a fact that there are differences about the platforms, and some of the differences are that you can say certain things on some platforms you can't say on other platforms. But that's not necessarily why we would go to the secondary platform sometimes.
I might just open up channels on those platforms. Might be a good idea.
100% you should.
Yeah.
By the way, love the hat, Bernie.
I'll see in the tech part of my Discord. So guys on tartarynova.com, and I'll talk to TechSpread to make sure that your videos also go there. We have a thing that just pushes the videos from the important projects people are working on. So that way you guys can also find the videos in the tech part of the Discord. So yeah, thank you very much.
That's
awesome,
awesome,
Bernie.
Yeah, and Andreas, in the future, we'll have to get on a show and talk about sound-powered Tartarian airships.
Right. See, that's the plan. See, what I want to do is every week we're going to do these swap casts, and we're going to go into all of these subjects. Gerald, definitely, we're going to want to have you back anytime that you're able to do that. And the idea will be, I'm calling it kind of real science for now, but I think maybe it'll change. Bernie's got the BurnEye thing. It can be called as many things as it needs to be called. But yeah, I want to get Jeremiah. I want to get you showing experiments. I want to have a show and tell from everybody all the time, and nothing has to work. That's fine. It's mostly about just showing people stuff. I think that's really cool, and also why it's interesting and what we're trying to do.
Well, we try. I mean, the reactor as it stands, it blows, But
That's science,
it's
though, right?
interesting,
It's
you know?
every day is a new test. Sometimes they work out better than others, but we're making it happen.
Yeah.
We're bringing it forward.
Jeremiah
That's
is a
what it's all
terrible
about.
salesman. See, because like I could have sold that thing as like $1,000 lava lamp, but he's like, it doesn't do what it's. Come on.
All right,
come on.
so we'll leave the sales episodes for when Jeremiah isn't here, so we can talk the shit.
No. That's the irony. I need to sell his thing.
There's only one thing. You've got to get them to sign this waiver, because that thing may just very well completely combust itself at any given moment.
Hey, word up, Paul Cook. Easy Tigers. Look at that. We were talking about Paul and how we have to do an episode with Paul making geopolymers with the monoatomics, and Gerald up here wants to put his coils in polymers. So
do you own
Paul, maybe if you show up for an episode.
Paul, do you own geopolymers?
Maybe he wants to jump on at the very end here, Bernie. And I would say just drop the link for the stream afterwards, because I would say kill the other cams, leave some room for people to jump in, and then we can always do an after party and just answer maybe a few questions off the live.
Absolutely. Link,
Love you guys.
StreamYard link is up
Love the
now,
play on
so,
words. There,
you
Andreas.
can feel free to drop in for the after party. On that note, we are at 3 hours, so we will catch everyone on the next one. And if you want to join in, ask questions now that the stream is ending, feel free. Click the link.
Thank you for
Love
the super
y'all.
chats.
Happy Halloween.
Real science.
So,
Awesome.
Simon C., he so badly wanted your opinions on
It
the
still says
Philadelphia
it's live.
experiment
Are you
before
sure it's
we
not?
end the show.
It says it's live everywhere.
Yeah,
by the
he
way.
forgot to end the live stream. That's okay.
It's still live on my channel too. I mean, make
The
sure you
after
fix
party
that.
party.
Well, you're still live, Simon.